and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In conformance with the Open Public Meeting Law, Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, adequate notice of this meeting, setting forth the time, date, place, and purpose of this regular meeting through notice posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building, mailed to all requested and paid for same, and published in the Suburban Trends. Roll call, please.
Mayor Sarah.
Here.
Council President Becker.
Here.
Councilman Day.
Here.
Councilman Devine.
Here.
Councilman Caponetta.
Here.
Councilwoman Chloe Boyd.
Here.
Councilman Bennett.
Here.
With us this evening is our Borough Attorney Joseph Ragnow and our Borough Administrator Kevin Boyle.
Okay, thank you. Okay, to start off with, we have a presentation by our Hawk Club, which works with our Preventive Coalition. I always give them a huge round of applause. The Hawk Club is made up of high school students that do their thing in high school in prevention of drugs and alcohol for underage drinking. You know, think about when you were in high school and if you took that stance. That's a hard stance to take in high school. So I give all those kids in that club, you know, a big round of applause, and they do a lot of hard work for our Municipal Alliance. So with that, I'm going to bring up, who's all three of you coming up, or how are we doing this? All right, come up, introduce yourself, and...
Hi, my name is Janine Ricciardelli. I am the club advisor at the high school. I'm also a science teacher, and I am an advisor for the Hawk Club, the Health and Wellness Coalition. Basically, our mission is to promote awareness against drugs and alcohol, and also we'll be taking on the job of stigma-free next year. We do several different events and activities throughout the year. We're going to be doing something this Saturday morning coming up, and in May we're going to be doing something, and that's what Maria is going to be talking about. We have a video to share with you. It's a competition that we're going to be in May with all of the schools in the state county. So we're going to be running against everybody in the state county. So without further ado, this is Maria Nemos.
Our mission, in conjunction with the Pompton Prevention Coalition, is to create awareness in the communities, to reduce underage drinking, marijuana use, the misuse of opioids and prescription drugs, heroin use, and new and emerging drugs. Leadership Summit is held on May 17, 2019. It's a conference of all anti-drugs and alcohol clubs in Passaic County. We will be competing against all other schools in Passaic County. Our objective is to create a video that supports the mission of anti-drugs and alcohol and/or mental health awareness. Our submission is called Did You Hear? And is focused around both opioid addiction and mental health awareness. We have created narratives that accompany our video. This was to be a 3 to 5 minute video, long introduction of the video we have submitted for the competition. Here's the narrative. Opioid abuse is one of the most terrifying epidemics that is plaguing this nation. Every year, a shocking number of teens and young adults die from drug overdose. For this year's competition, the Pompton High School Health and Wellness Coalition sought to combat this epidemic and bring awareness through this PSA. Our PSA, entitled Did You Hear?, details a school day after a tragic event due to opioid abuse. We're hoping it helps to increase awareness and conversations about the choices one makes and encourages anyone who is suffering to seek help.
be heard. Yesterday, we lost a student.
That's our PSA, that we're gonna go into competition, against all the other schools in Clay County on May 17th. So, thank you so much for watching, and we appreciate your time.
So while they're getting set here, we've been working hard with Ashley as our coordinator at the Alliance. We applied for a grant that together over 10 years will equal $1 million. We're one of the few communities in the country to get the grant. We're going on our second 5-year term. They've identified our areas of concern in Pompton Lakes, which right now is marijuana and drinking. But, no community is spared from the loss of opioids right now. There's nobody around. I don't care if you make $1 million or you make $1. Every community is affected by that. So that's why they're doing this video on that, and hopefully you do very well in the competition. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for coming and present it. It was very good, and, let us know how things go.
Thank you very much.
Any questions from the council? Anybody have any concerns? Okay. Thank you, guys. Good job. Okay, moving on. Okay, you're all set. Good. She's already out. We have a proclamation from the Women's Club. On April is Child Abuse Awareness and Prevention Month, and we happen to have 2 members of the Women's Club up here on the dais, so I'm going to ask them to come down. Oh, sure. Whoever wants to come up and present with them, we'll all come down and make the presentation. So why don't you guys come down with us? Anybody from the Women's Club, come up, please. Liz, you're part of that, too?
You want to read? Okay. Okay, Mike, where are you?
Right here.
Okay. I'll read the first few and then I'll pass it to Jen. Okay. It is from the Office of the Mayor. Whereas we all have a responsibility as individuals, neighbors, community members, and citizens of Pompton Lakes to help create healthy, nurturing, and safe experiences for children. And whereas healthy and safe childhoods help produce confident and successful adults, and whereas child abuse and neglect often occur when people find themselves in stressful situations without community resources and don't know how to cope, and whereas incidences of child abuse and neglect can be reduced by making sure all families have the support they need and deserve to raise their children in healthy environments.
And whereas court-appointed special advocates, also known as CASA, is authorized by state statute and federal law to help the court and child welfare systems make best interest decisions on behalf of children removed from home because of abuse or neglect. And whereas CASA volunteer advocates in Pompton Lakes help to ensure that abused and neglected children who are placed in foster care and other out-of-home placements are safe and receive the services they need to achieve well-being. And whereas CASA advocates reduce the number of moves between placements, help shorten the overall time a child remains in placement, and serve as consistent person in the child's life until that child achieves permanency in a safe home with a loving family. Now therefore, I,
Mayor Michael Sarah,
proclaim April 2019 as Child Abuse Awareness and Prevention Month in Pompton Lakes, and April 5th as CASA Child Advocacy Day 2019, and urge all citizens to support the CASA network across New Jersey as it strengthens families and helps children learn, grow, and thrive.
They're all members of the Women's Club here, right? Liz, you're using a picture tape, right?
Sam, can we do it?
Thank you.
Right,
Thank you very much.
another one of our groups in town that quietly does a lot of work here in Pompton Lakes for us. You know, they're always out there doing what we need. We don't have to ask much of them, and they take it upon themselves to do what they gotta do. So, a big thank you for everything you do, not just on this. Okay. We're gonna open the have a motion to open the meeting for public comments. So moved. Councilman Blind.
Second.
Council President Riker. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Before we start, there are some guidelines we're going to follow. Everyone will get to speak once in each session. You'll have roughly 5 minutes. There will be some light back and forth between myself and you, if you want that. We have a lot of people here, so let's try to get through this, and then if you'd like to stay for the second session, you can. So with that, if anyone would like to speak, please step up.
Elaine Zablocki, 6 Butler Street. The sidewalks and landscaping along Lakeside Avenue are beautiful. Maybe the prettiest I've ever seen in all the years I've lived in Pompton Lakes. Lovely as the view is, it doesn't mitigate the suffering that DuPont inflicted on this town. When I heard about the press conference on March 27th regarding the lawsuit filed by the State Attorney General, I wondered why it was held in Totowa. Then I attended the council meeting that night and listened to the mayor's reaction to the event. Mr. Serra said that this was a hush-hush meeting.
That is incorrect.
The front page of the local paper doesn't seem hush-hush to me. Then he said he feels bad for himself and the residents because of all the negative publicity. Actually, his words were, "We were thrown under a bus." This is consistent with his comments at a meeting last year when the mayor was clearly more upset by bad publicity than the real suffering of so many residents, past and present, in Pompton Lakes. He dismissed the statements of people who were at meetings with DuPont officials as fiction. Unfortunately, you said, papers like bad news. Well, I have to agree with you there. What DuPont did is bad, bad news. My town's been through enough, you said. But never once did you say you felt sorry for all the serious illnesses that families, now generations of families, have suffered. You said the DEP and the EPA are telling you that things are working, and that you believe them, and the council agrees. What about their conversations are so much more believable than what the people you represent are saying? Why is their word sufficient and the actions of the State Attorney General suspect? And yes, I did find out why the press conference was held in Totowa. Mr. Serra volunteered that he told the Attorney General he didn't want it held in Pompton Lakes. Well, now, that seems pretty hush-hush to me. Pompton Lakes is not your town, Mr. Serra. It's our town. And I don't know that there will ever be a truly just and satisfactory ending to this saga. Maybe those pretty trees are the best we can hope for. Moving forward requires optimism about the future, something we all can agree with, but not at the expense of forgetting what DuPont did.
Thank you. So now to address the concerns you brought up, when you say the EPA and DEP, I'm picking them over our residents. No, I'm picking the organizations that are responsible for this cleanup. My residents here are not responsible for this cleanup. They did not cause the problem. They are also not the scientific backing to make sure this is working. The only experts I can go with are the EPA and the DEP. Has there been suffering from our residents, from our town? And, you know, I've said this for 20 years. This is not a Plume problem. This is a Pompton Lakes problem. Okay? So because you were the one speaking, saying that just these residents are affected is a false statement. The town is affected by this. Science is what's going to drive how this goes forward. Not me, not this council, not even the residents. I hate to say it, okay? The Attorney General, the problem with the Attorney General's meeting was we weren't made aware of it as a mayor and council. There was no responsibility to tell us we're having a press conference here in your town. There should have been some common decency to say we're having a meeting in your town. When they wouldn't tell me what the meeting was about, and I had no idea what the meeting was about, I said, if you can't tell me what the meeting's about, I'm asking it to be removed from my town. And most of the people I've spoken to agree with that. Okay? If they can't have a common decency, the way government works is it works from the top down. If they can't fill us in on what's going on, there's a problem there. And I will be meeting with the Attorney General and the Commissioner very shortly to address these concerns. So I thank you for your comments. Next, anybody else who would like to speak? Please step up.
Lisa Regilla, former councilwoman and former resident. I live at 283 Ryerson Road in Lincoln Park, New Jersey now. Mayor, about the AG and the press conference, number one, they didn't tell anybody what it was about. They legally could not because it was a legal issue. So I was there in Totowa and I knew nothing about what was going to happen that day. I was just invited.
And how were you invited? Can I ask that? How were you invited?
By email.
But somebody invited you.
Well, I assume that you were invited too?
I was not.
It would have been nice if somebody...
No one on invite team.
Really?
Nothing.
No, not in one.
Well, I did receive an email.
And that's one of my problems.
FYI.
And I'm not saying I didn't want you. That's not what this is not what the ordinance is about. Having my residents there is fine. What I'm saying is I should have also been there with my residents.
But honestly, Mayor, any press conference relating to horrific contamination should take place right in the town. But that's another story.
That's another talk.
I want to get through what I'm going to get through, so let me... I want to address Resolution 1996 right now.
I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, and I'll give you an extra minute. One thing I forgot to mention at the beginning of the meeting, that resolution that I know everyone's here to address, and we will talk about it, and it's fine. It is not being voted on tonight.
Okay.
It has to go through some other channels before it gets voted on.
So you're tabling that?
So it is tabled.
All right.
But you're welcome to give your opinion.
I'm going to say what I was going to say anyway. After DuPont has abused the borough of Pompton Lakes and its residents for 100 years, why on earth would this council waive liability to a multi-billion-dollar corporate polluter? Hasn't Pompton Lake suffered long enough? You should be taking legal action like Carneys Point, New Jersey, who is suing DuPont for $1 billion plus for the damage they have done to their community. There is something very wrong going on if you were to let that resolution move forward. The last several weeks, we have experienced several deaths of tragic losses of young people, some I've grown up with, from Pompton Lakes, but you want to say that DuPont is harmless? A harmless agreement is waiving the right for them to be responsible for things, is it not? Whatever happens will forever be your fault if you vote yes on that resolution and pass it. So please, table it forever and never vote yes. Thank you.
Okay, so to address your concerns...
I guess the facts correct. Resolution 1996 is not the ordinance relative to zone change. That's ordinance 1913.
Okay, what is she asking about then?
Resolution 1996.
And that has to do with the place of wells and request of DEP that you possibly have on other locations in town.
And an indemnification agreement and a hold harmless.
So if there's any issue, the borough doesn't get this. If the whole borough is not liable for anything that happens,
Well, it sounds like it's DuPont that's not going to be...
No, it's the borough.
The borough of Pompton Lakes.
Okay. All right.
So to address, so you did bring up some concerns that I'd like to address. Look, at the end of the day, I've had the health department here, I've had the state departments here, I've had the EPA, and I believe when residents tell me there's concerns in the plume, in the area, health concerns. I can't get anybody to verify that information. I'm not saying I don't believe it, but I have to have something to go by. I can't go by word of mouth, okay? The only thing we have right now, until this date, and it's old data at best, it could get worse, it could get better, is elevated Hodgkin's and non-lymphoma. Those are the two that we have right now. Kidney, I'm sorry, thank you, kidney. They did do, for the residents that weren't around for a while, we did a while ago ask them to do a study of the 6 surrounding towns, cancer-related. We fell normal with the rest of the towns. Some towns were even worse than us. Oakland, for example, was worse than us. But again, that's the science talking, that's not the residents and the everyday living of where they are. Is there issues where the plume is? There's got to be. I understand that. Okay, but we're trying to address that. We're trying to clean that up. This mayor, this council does not make the decisions on the cleanup. The EPA, the DEP make those decisions. Okay, we just follow the guidelines. On the ordinance that we're talking about today that's tabled, what we're basically stating there is 20 years ago was put in place to put a golf course, a pool, a meeting center, and residential housing there. What we're basically saying is we know we will never have residential there, and we don't want residential there. What we're looking for is the future use of that property. We all have to agree, it could be 100 years from now. I know it's a slow process, but at some point, that will be cleaned up. When it is cleaned up, that property has to go back on the tax records. It's the only fair thing for our residents here in town. The best thing to use that we can put there is light industrial, maybe some data search, maybe some data breach, things like that. So this rezoning is to address that. Rezoning, if you read the paper today, rezoning has nothing to do with how the DEP and EPA evaluate the cleanup. It has the two separate things. We do the zoning, they do the cleanup. So I just want to mention that as we move forward. Anyone else would like to speak? I see Ann, please step up.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Ed Meek from Howard Street Complex. It's been a long time, so I just want to clarify something before I start. If you speak now at the public session, when you're going to table the other ordinance, you're not going to open it up to the public comments?
For when?
For public comments on the other ordinance?
On the ordinance, no, because we're not addressing
So
it.
you can't speak about that unless you speak about it now?
Right. No, when we put it back on to second reading, then there'll be a...
But tonight?
Tonight, no.
You're not going to be able to speak about it again, so you have to do it now.
Second open session, of course, we can.
Right, that'd be...
Or even now, because we're...
After you tabled it?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to ask about that. I have a small paper, too. I have, like, a little bit of a concern about changing the zone now, and it's because of the timing, I think. And this basically will kind of clarify. On March 27th, the New Jersey Attorney General filed a lawsuit against Kenworth and DuPont. On page 8 in the complaint, number 26 states, Kenworth's own study has found mercury has traveled 1.5 miles down to the Pompton River. On page 10, number 36, it states, hazardous substances and pollutants have adversely impacted the groundwater and on and off the facility. On page 11 of the complaint, it says, on number 40, VOCs have contaminated hundreds of homes in the southeast section of the site. On page 13, number 47 states, hazardous substances have adversely impacted the soils and sediments on-site and off-site. On page 13, number 53 states, Pompton Lakes Works has affected the wetlands on and off-site, Acid Brook, Acid Delta, Pompton Lake, Ramapo River, Wanacue, and Pompton River. On page 14, it says, number 57, the site has also impacted the Ramapo State Forest. Page 25, number 110, said that DuPont entered into an ACO, which was an agreement for groundwater settlement for the contamination of Pompton Lakes back in 2005. Lisa and I exposed the fact that they gave us 70 acres of contaminated land. The Attorney General is going after that part of it right now. We handed them that on a silver platter. This, by changing this now, it could impact the outcome of this case. So I don't understand why you would take any action when there's a pending lawsuit that could benefit the people of Pompton Lakes like they never benefited before.
So I
And
can-
I'm not here for an argument.
No, I can answer that.
I'm not here to cause any trouble. I'm only trying to state facts that I know.
Okay.
I've lived through it. I've been through it. I've seen people suffer. There's people I know that suffered personally, but I'm not getting into that. Then, it goes on to say on page 26, number 113 states, 31 years later, they have failed to comply. That's part of the AG's lawsuit. So he understands the fact that they didn't complete what they were supposed to do. This has gone on for decades in our town. You're sick of bad press, so are we. We're sick of bad environments. We're sick from our environment. We don't want to be giving Pompton Lakes a bad name. We want to give it the best cleanup it could ever get, possibly. And I think by tabling this, you may be able to not interfere with what's going on right now, because there are some things that change. Now, I did notice that the areas that you list on the agenda that you're going to table, that you want to change the zones in, are located in the eastern manufacturing area. They're block 100, lots 3, 6, 6.01, and 7. They may not be all of yours, but part of your lots and blocks are in there that you want to change the zones on. Number 86 in this document says, the following contaminants have been identified in natural resources in the eastern manufacturing area: arsenic, antimony, barium, cadmium, chromium, cobalt, copper, lead, manganese, mercury, nickel, selenium, silver, thiam, cyanide, PCB, PAHS, and biethylphthalate, if I said that right. So, I mean, that's a major concern for me, and I also would like to know if the Borough of Pompton Lakes or any representatives had any contact with DuPont after this lawsuit went into effect, dealing with the zone change. And one other thing I want to address is the traffic issue if you ever propose a zone change. I hope you have a hybrid highway coming in from 287, because Cannonball Road
We agree.
cannot sustain the traffic that you're attempting to put in there. Just looking at it, if you go down that street, there's at least 10 businesses that have no loading areas whatsoever. They double park tractor trailers in the street. People are using fork trucks in the street. The steel company, Valbruna, which is a good neighbor, has a lot of steel trucks coming up and down that road, if not 50 a day. You know, I don't know how you're going to bring that traffic in. So before you put the cart before the horse, I would just ask you, and I'm glad that you are tabling it for tonight, but taking some of the stuff that I just stated today, and I think that it's very important for this borough to be an example of a good cleanup, not to get beat up like Carney's Point, Greenwich Township. I spoke to all of those towns when I was a council person, and everything that we had a meeting with Catherine McCabe, okay? And you had a meeting with her the day after. And obviously, the information that we gave them and the Attorney General did something. It changed the course of this. We may be able to benefit from this, and I thank you for listening.
Okay. So working backwards from what you brought up, just it's easier for me to go that way. First of all, look, this is not happening in the next 5 years or 10 years. We understand this is, and I am the first one to say this has gone on way too long. It's a long, drawn-out process. And this is for the future use many years down the road. What you talked about traffic, that will be, of course, a concern once that is put into place on how that's going to be handled. Probably not by this council even, but by someone else, they'd have to address that. So yes, the traffic is a major concern. They would have to look at on or off ramps in 287. I agree with that. It was a big enough company. So that's that. About the cleanup and what you talked about, all the information you're bringing me goes through the DEP and the EPA. We have no say on that. This was brought up because we had to redo by law our master plan, which was over a year and a half ago. I think we started the process for the master plan. This was done because in our master plan, it was listed the old standards to keep it. The golf course, the this, the that. And I'm going to tell you, there was a residential component to that. So in our master plan, which we had to redo, this was part of the change. That's the only reason this came up. No one has asked for this. No one has said, please get this in as quickly as you can. We had to redo our master plan, and this is the way we're doing it. We foresee at the end of all of this, that property is a valuable piece of property, not just to Pompton Lakes, to other people. I have people knocking on the door almost daily saying, who do I talk to get into that site when it's clean? And I said, it's not even close there yet. There's big decisions that have to be made. Look, I understand the EPA and the DEP are still miles apart on how the cleanup's going to go. If tomorrow the DEP comes in here and tells me they want it clean to a residential standard, that's great. I think that's great. I would appreciate that and hope for that. Okay? I can't expect them to say that, to be honest. Okay? Because we are not putting residential housing there. We don't own the property. Please don't speak in front of the audience. Comores owns the property. If you look at the brownfields throughout the state, brownfields have been cleaned up to what needs to be put there. If residential is not going there, they are not cleaning it to residential standard. If tomorrow, though, the DEP decides we want residential standards there, you're getting no fight from this mayor and council. We will support that. But on the same token, we don't make the decisions on that either. The EPA and DEP do. You mentioned the NRDs, which you were a big part in bringing that to light. We've passed a ordinance on the NRDs to see that money stay in Pompton Lakes, and we've actually listed numerous things we'd like to see that money spent on. That's all we can do. If they do that, it's up to the EPA. We hope they are. I'm working, and you guys are very vocal in getting the words out. Speak to your congresspeople, speak to people, and make them understand we want that money to stay in Pompton Lakes. We have projects that we could put that money towards. It didn't work last time. They took that money and brought it to South Jersey and worked on the Pine Barrens. We've supported the NRD for a long time, and we want the money to stay here. But again, these concerns you're bringing up have to be brought up to, and you have, to the DEP and the EPA. Those are the ones you need to talk to about this. This council does not make a decision on how the cleanup goes. All we are in charge of is the zoning, and what we want to see the zoning as the future use to make a profitable Pompton Lakes. And that's important. That is a very important aspect of this. Not now. Please, no, nothing from the audience.
These people that actually got the lawsuit into action because of inaction by this mayor.
I don't buy that 100%. I will say I think the NRD, he's going after money. The state needs money, and this is a way the state can get money. At the end of the day, like I said, I will be meeting with both of those people, and I will tell you when I met with them, and some of the council people who were at that meeting, the comments from the commissioner were completely 100% different from what she said at that press conference. I don't appreciate that for both sides. If you're going to say something, make sure it's the information that we want to hear. Don't say things just to say things. And I will follow up more with that. Would anybody else from the public like to speak? Please step up.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Alan Earl, formerly at 76 Barber Drive, currently at 16 Bartolf Avenue, here in Pompton Lakes. Slightly move off the subject, and it's hard to because it's very important, and I understand these people here, and myself also. But my main concern now that you're going to table this is cannabis. And you had these young gals in here. It was great, the program that they have. Yet I read from the state of New Jersey, and that's why I need some clarification here by you people, that you have not come out for or against the use, the seeding, cultivating, growing, sale, or use of cannabis in the state, in Pompton Lakes. Do you have a position on this?
I can answer that from my personal opinion. So let me start with what...
Have you
answer it totally.
Stated that?
The reason we haven't come out with something is these towns that have already come out with something, the state will override them when they come out with their policy. So what the state is going to do when they finally come out with their own policy, they're going to give the towns 180 days to then come out with their response to their policy. Putting out a policy now, and I'm just using it as an example, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but if we say you can sell no marijuana in Pompton Lakes, and the state says you can sell marijuana only in vape stores, that overrides what we said. We have no say on saying it will go into vape stores. So putting that ordinance in place doesn't really do anything until the state comes up with a plan. Now, you can see, if you've read or seen the news, they've pulled back from what they initially thought. They're going to do some more thinking about it. I personally do not want to see marijuana in my town. I do not. But then, there's a lot of avenues that open up. Medical marijuana, everyone I talk to on the Democratic and Republican side both say there's a need for that. There's a reason for
I
that.
agree 100%,
Okay,
but I
but-
didn't say medical.
No, but
I
the problem
agree.
is, and here's my issue with medical marijuana. You look at California, which started that way, and now they have a doctor shop, a part of the medical marijuana shop, and you go in there and say, I have a headache, they write you a prescription, you go get marijuana. So that becomes an issue. We're still waiting for the state to make a decision. The towns that have made a early decision, it's not holding any weight until the state makes a decision. We will have time within 180 days to either say we're against it or not for it, or we want this piece or not that piece. My look on the whole thing is, the tax revenue that they talk about is not huge for a small town like Pompton Lakes. We're not going to make $1 million on selling that. And the consequences that we're going to get from that, from our police department and overtime and effort they're going to have to put out.
That's right.
That's just my personal standard. But I will tell you that's where the reason we haven't put out anything official. We're waiting for the state to come out first, and then we will respond to what the state does.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address?
My name is Garvey Cockapher. My brother is Russell Cockapher. Russell has something to show everybody here. Because of the $1,000 that the town has given to us, we are able to divert some of our programs to art. Show everybody, Russ.
Tell them where you're from and what groups you're from.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor, for what you're doing for this town. But I have a belief that we are more powerful than opioids. We are more powerful than pollution. We as human beings. We have made a problem, but we are more powerful than that. Inside of us, in our hearts, in our bodies. This is what I believe. We are more powerful than the problems that we face. And as we face them, we have to realize, hey, who am I? I'm a child of the Creator. I'm a child of this earth. Well, let's help the earth. Let's help ourselves, if you know what I mean. I am very positive that the problems we face today, all of them, have a solution, but it begins with us, inside of us. Then it goes outside of us. There's certain book says, well, you're not supposed to, put a basket over the light. Well, our hearts are our lights. Let not our bodies be baskets. Let it be transparent, so that the problems that we face in this town can be solved. Because we are more powerful in those problems, and that's what I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? I saw a hand. Who's that?
Mayor, Council, my name is George Paul, 1104 Colfax Avenue, and if anything, the inactivity of the council for the past 9 years that I've been involved in the pollution of the lake, the plume, the whole DuPont question, has been inactivity, obstinance as far as activities go, and personally, a year ago, you told me that the lake was clean. What a myth. There's no other word for it.
Is the EPA say it's clean?
No.
They don't say it's
They
clean?
do not say it's clean.
It's clean to standard, what they need.
No, it is capped.
That's your opinion. They don't call it capped.
Well, what would you call it?
Look, I'm not going to get into this
I'm not going to get
argument.
into an argument, you're right. But I want to readdress Ordinance 1913. And one must ask, why? Why would the mayor and council who were elected by the people of Pompton Lakes screw them by turning around and in any way hampering the current activity by the Attorney General?
Where are we hampering?
You're hampering them by changing the classification of how the property
So
should be
you
used.
want to keep it as residential? Is that what
Yes.
you would like to keep it as
No, I
residential?
want to keep the standard of cleanup. I do not want any
Can't have both.
opportunity.
Can't have both.
Yes, you can.
No, you can't.
You can go for the standard of cleanup for that. It's in the law, in the New Jersey laws. I spoke to the Attorney General at the meeting.
It's one of the questions I will be asking him. Can we clean it up to residential
There.
standard and not have it?
What we are doing, by your inactivity and your potentially changing the ordinance, is condemning hundreds of the residents to breathing contaminated air, ongoing exposure to carcinogens, and deadly diseases. Matter of fact, do you know the level of toxicity of what was left in the lake?
Do you?
No, because no one would disclose it.
Okay, so I don't
Okay.
either. That would be a question to
That's
the
right.
EPA.
I asked it a year ago.
Right, and
Nobody here bothered to
We're not going
look
to have
into
that
it.
answer. The EPA is going to have that answer.
And you don't care? Is that what you're telling me?
I've had meetings, many meetings with EPA and DEP, and you saying we're inactive is just a falsehood, and that's your belief, and that's fine, that's your belief. I can't tell you, and I know that many of the people in this room have spent many hours, I have spent many hours also discussing this with many groups. To date, the EPA has told me, and again, this is what I'm going to ask the Attorney General, we haven't fined Camorras for anything. They've followed our procedure. The next hurdle we need to face is how it's going to be cleaned up. And they're far apart on that still, but everything they've done up to this date, there has been no issues with.
But, okay, but just, what you're doing here is you're setting a precedent. You're saying the lake is clean? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
No, what I'm telling you is set
Okay.
to the standard by the EPA for cleaning, and the
Set by a
EPA...
standard? It's a great standard, it really is.
But that's
It's covered by
saying-
6 inches of sand and replanting of 6 aquatic plants per acre. How could you have let that slide by?
So you're a PhD now better than the EPA that can handle that?
No,
They have their
I
experts.
don't think it had anything to do with science. It has something
has
to do
all
with
to do with
economics.
science. It has-
No, it has all to do with economics.
Well, then-
Because you're trying to save, by your change, you potentially save millions, hundreds of millions.
Who's we saving?
The council.
The council's not saving anything. Come on, stop it,
No,
stop
you're saving
it.
it for DuPont.
Come on, we're saving it for DuPont.
Right.
So we get an advantage for saving it for DuPont?
I have no idea what advantage you're getting. I don't want to get
We
into
get
that
nothing.
territory.
So, okay, Frank, no advantage. So, at the end of the day, you're telling me that you don't believe the EPA science, and you disregard their cleanup. Now, let me finish, please. Then you should be going to the EPA and telling them this.
What we have.
Okay, then,
We
you're
have
telling the
both.
wrong person. Telling me doesn't do
No,
anything.
no, they turn around, they say, even your town is going along with whatever.
They've never, could you please get that? I'd like to see that in writing.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
Please get that in writing.
To my face, they say that.
In writing, you
I'd like to see that. I will go and
won't
see.
put anything in writing, and neither will
They could call me on it. They don't have to put it in writing. Call me. Yeah.
Perry will not respond.
I'll tell them
I know, I meet with Perry every Thursday. She's never once said that to me. No, he's never said it. Pat and
If
Perry.
Perry changed sexes, I didn't know that.
Pat and Perry.
Okay.
They have not said that once to me.
All right. Bottom line, what I'm asking is that you don't pass the resolution, you table it, because the only thing you're doing is opening up more opportunity for the cleanup to be a capping.
Okay, I agree.
Even their own, the EPA's own audit stated that the pump and treat system is inadequate to reduce the amount of contamination going down through the plume. As a matter of fact, you haven't yet,
Where'd you get that from?
that's out of their EPA audit on page 4.
We had a sit-down with Councilman Polidori and was it Councilman President Riker with the commissioner going through the process of working there. They tell me it's working perfect over there. Matter of fact, better than it should.
It's working perfect?
That's what they say.
What does that mean, sir? How do you quantify that?
They're telling me nothing, and again, this is them speaking, not me. Nothing
Trying to understand
nothing
that.
is
Quantify
leaving the
perfect.
site. It's doing what it's supposed to do.
Right, but it's not attenuating.
No, it's not. That's correct. You are right there.
So the amount of contamination is still...
On the site, yes.
Yeah, not on the site, but actually going under the 400 homes into Pompton Lake. To this date, I've been involved in this for 9 years, no one has asked for the northern part of the lake, north of Lakeside Avenue, to be in any way investigated or checked for the contamination.
So tell me what you're asking for. I will ask for
I will ask for that.
So you want the northern part of the lake, and you said it wasn't done, it wasn't
It
checked?
was never done.
Northern
No
part of the
numbers on
lake.
the northern part of the lake.
Was never tested.
Never tested.
Is that in
right.
Pompton?
In Pompton, right. In Pompton, going right across.
I will ask that.
Right where the plume goes in, all the way up to,
I will ask that and see why they didn't do that. Did they ever respond to that to you?
Excuse me?
Did they ever respond when you asked that question?
They have not responded either, because they said there are no figures to respond with. No one's asked for it.
Okay, I will ask.
Neither has the council, and considering that half the lake is north of Lakeside Bridge.
I think they did, I can't speak for the truth, but I think that they did do some testing up there, but I don't know that for sure.
Okay.
So you got a couple more minutes, go ahead.
I know I have the time. I really don't need it. I think I've got my message across.
I will pass this
You're
on.
making a mistake by trying to change the law while other steps are being done that can, I think, benefit the town and finally get it cleaned up, not capped.
Okay.
There are too many people suffering and have suffered for too long. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else with that? Anyone? Step up, please. Hi, Peter Shazat, 314 Woodlawn Avenue. Just to follow up on some of these comments, in lieu of the new litigation by the Attorney General, and if for no other reason than optics alone, I think it would be wise to postpone voting on Amendment 1913 tonight.
We are already. I guess you came in late.
Was it? No, I thought it was 1996 that you said.
No, the other one is not on the agenda.
They're both resolutions. There's a resolution, yeah, a resolution.
And one's in ordinance.
One's an ordinance, one's a resolution. Okay.
Both tabled.
But they're both, I'm sorry. I thought it
No,
was
the
just-
resolution is not tabled. The ordinance is tabled.
It's the opposite, isn't it?
No, the ordinance is being tabled. The resolution is not. The resolution is not being tabled. It's the ordinance. The resolution is not protecting DuPont. It's protecting the town for liability, not DuPont. DuPont has nothing to do with this resolution. This is
How
our
long do
resolution.
you foresee tabling that resolution?
Which one?
Sorry, 1913.
The ordinance.
The ordinance.
Until it factors through the boards it needs to go to, and then it will come back. And we will, of course, announce that, and we'll be made aware of everything.
So you'll have had probably your conversation then with the Attorney General and the DEP Commissioner by then?
Those two things we're tabling this for a different reason. It has to go to some other groups before it comes to us.
I understand.
I could have that meeting. I don't know when that'll be.
Okay, I mean, I would advise or request that this be tabled until after that conversation's had.
It should be, I would think.
Mainly because,
Yeah, I don't know.
I think one of the benefits of this litigation will be, just as with Big Tobacco, we didn't really find out truly some of the more nefarious things that were going on until they were actually litigated, and court documents were made available, of internal emails and things of that nature. I feel that a very similar thing can happen here. I think that by the Attorney General having the power to subpoena internal emails and records, that we may find information that's never come out before. So, by your own words, that there's no physical development on that land for 5-10 years from now.
Oh, easily, because...
Easily, fine. So there's no rush to redesignate the zoning on that
There is,
property.
because the EPA is asking us what their requirements are, what our future use for the property is going to be. We have to give them some type of idea of what we would like to see there.
Residential.
We can't, because if residential is there, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be answering your questions, but if you tell them residential, then it has to be residential. You can't have it clean up to residential standards and not have residential there. It doesn't work that way.
So they want to shoot for it then?
To have resident, because DuPont will not put residential there. That's their property. We don't own the property. DuPont owns the property. Moore's.
But isn't it the EPA,
No.
upon your request as to what your intent for that land is?
No, they don't. The cleanup has nothing to do with the zoning. We are just going to set the zoning. The cleanup will come from the EPA and the DEP.
But you're saying the zoning that's being set is going to dictate what type of cleanup is going to be...
You'd have to ask the EPA and DEP that. That's not my answer, and I don't think it does. I can read a statement. Well, no, I'll read a statement from the DEP, which I have right here. Zoning decisions are local matters. Having said that, the EPA, working with its counterparts, the DEP, will ensure that any soil cleanups proposed is protective of human health and the environment, commencing with anticipated future use of the land. And then over here it says, the cleanup has been in limbo. No, that's not it. No. There's another statement in here that the zoning has nothing to do with the cleanup.
But do you not say that the EPA was going to ask you for what zoning type that you wanted? Or that we...
No. They need on record, just so they can move forward, what we want to do with the property.
Right. So, okay, so you're saying what we, as a town, want to do with the property, not what DuPont wants to do with the property.
This has nothing to do with DuPont. Right.
So then, the EPA is then asking you for what you want to use this land for.
We do not want, we would never put I will never put residential housing there, ever.
Regardless of that, the goal, as you just said before, if you could shoot for residential standard cleanup, you would do so. And that's what I'm saying you should be asking for.
Then I would be saying I'm putting residential there. I am not putting residential there. We will never put residential there.
Well, if it was residential, if it was cleaned up to that standard, why wouldn't you?
because we will still never put residential there. Nobody wants, from the EPA to DEP, Comores, and us, to have residential there. No one.
I'm particularly, that's actually not my concern, but I am concerned with trying to get that cleaned up to the highest possible.
And again, if the DEP comes tomorrow and says, we have decided, forgetting, you not listening to what we have to say or any Comores, we have decided we're going to clean it to residential standards, then we're going to go along with it. That's what it is. We're not going to argue that. We're not going to fight.
Well, to rephrase that then, so the EPA is asking you what standard you want.
It's not asking me what standard I want.
Well, hang on. But it's the DEP that is determining the minimum level of cleanup?
No. They're going to ask, we have to put a future use on the building for zoning, because our master plan has to be redone. It has nothing to do with anything else except our master plan. We're redoing our master plan, which we have to do by law every 10 years. Is it 10 years? 5 years? What is it? 10 years. So that's the only reason this has come up. Nothing else has come up.
I'm sorry, where?
Right here.
When commensurate with the anticipated future land use of the property.
Read that.
When future land use is non-residential, the DEP cleanup standards are weaker because DEP applies assumptions about human exposure potential. There is far less human exposure at a non-residential site. In contrast, at a residential site, the assumption is that lots of people are present 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
But that's a DEP decision, that's not our decision.
But you're kind of playing...
I'm not playing...
You're playing whack-a-mole with these agencies.
What you're asking me is why we're doing this. I am telling you why we're doing this, because the master plan has to be done every 10 years, and it's time to do that. It's the only reason we're doing this.
So, can you redo the master plan in a shorter period of time than that? If you wanted to redo it?
Yes, we could.
Say 3 years from now.
Can we do that? Yes, we can.
So if some miraculous revelation comes out on this, on how horrendous everything is, and requires an immediate change of course as to what's going to be ever put there, I'm going down a rabbit hole here. That you will make the request.
You got another minute, so go ahead.
Sure. That you will make the request to change it to a higher standard. So should we find out some...
We don't request anything. The DEP tells us what it is. We don't request anything.
So who is the zoning... Who's interested in your zoning standards, EPA or DEP?
Maybe both. I don't know. We're doing the zoning for the borough has to be done. Legally has to be done. They're not asking us to do it. We have to do it legally as a borough.
Well, fine. I mean, that... You did say before that the EPA wanted to know what it's going to be used for. They were requesting what our master plan was.
Yes, they're asking what our master plan, yes. That's exactly right.
So our decisions are affecting their decisions.
No, they're asking for the master plan. That's all they're asking for. So then we have to make a master plan. That's what we're doing.
Right. So if we hand them a master plan that says we're going to put up 5-star hotels there and residents all over the place, then they will have a different outlook upon what standards they need to apply to that.
No, Comores is going to say, this is our property, we are not going to allow that. It's their property, not ours.
So then how do you have a right to say anything, whether it's a golf course or whatever?
It's a zone, that's all. We're setting a zone. We can't demand anything that gets built there. It's a zone. Because we put a zone there, doesn't mean it gets built there. It's just putting a
zone. You can make it residential, it doesn't mean DuPont has to build anything there.
That's true, but that would be up to Comores. That's right. It's not up to us.
So, all right, so we could have, you guys say we want this residential, and then Comores is probably not going to do that.
It is residential right now. Okay, leaving it, many people, including many people in this group, have said it can never be residential there.
I haven't said that.
Well, you've all said yourself DuPont will never do that.
Who? Comores. You'd have to speak to Comores about
If it was fully cleaned up,
Please, you can speak next. All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public like to speak? Gotta raise your hand. Raise your hand. Because there's other people that want to talk. So that's what I'm saying. You cut someone off.
I do apologize.
Okay, go ahead.
My name is Andrew Frensley, 157 Laurel Avenue. I only had one quick question. For the area that is affecting DuPont, that area, does DuPont still own that piece of land?
They own it all, and they will always own it.
They will always own it. Okay, that's all I have.
Okay,
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Please step up.
Helen Martins, 59 White Life, Pumpton Lakes. First of all, I want to start out saying I strongly oppose one vote for the ordinance 1913. If DuPont contaminated property zoning is changed to commercial, industrial, or contamination could remain on the site and could threaten the health and safety of the family, poison our drinking water and air, further reduce our property values, endanger our environment, and expose many children to toxic waste, permanently leaving a stigma on the town. If you care about protecting and working families in Pumpton Lakes, you will vote no for this ordinance. By DEP or EPA asking you for rezoning of the property or whatever for the master plan, by doing that, it allows Chemours, DuPont and Chemours, the EPA and the DEP to cap this property and never really fully clean it up.
How do you know that? How do you know that?
Because I know more than you think I know. That property is not cleaned up.
Okay, but you
It
don't
isn't
know
cleaned
that.
up, though. You believe it is. You're the only one.
Are you saying I agree 100%. Their property is not cleaned up.
No, and by capping it, what are you putting? So much
Who
sand
said they're
and
capping
this-
it? How do you know
Because
that?
when you rezone that means it doesn't have to be... See, what we're trying to prove to you, if you hit that residential, you make that a full cleanup.
Did you ever think that maybe the distance between...
What I
can't
think
get the
is
cleanup?
it will never be cleaned up, and that's why they don't want it to be
Then that's your
residential.
opinion. You're allowed your opinion.
So that's what I think.
Okay.
And I think that if this continues and they cap this and industry goes in and whatever and they dig up the soil to put foundations in, you're disturbing this, and this could lead to more contaminants coming down to under our homes. And that is a serious concern of mine. Because I live with this stuff under my home. And like I say all the time, I live in fear every day. What is next? And now this just confirms more. I'm so upset about it because we have been fighting for 11 years for a full cleanup of this property so we don't have to worry about it. And now we're going to rezone it so we give them a free pass to cap it and move on, and we're stuck with it.
Do you have a system on your own right now?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I would definitely, but it
Good.
doesn't protect you 100%.
No, I'm just asking, that's all.
And neither will capping. Capping doesn't last forever.
So I'm going to make this, and I thank you for your comments. I think, and this is just a personal opinion, I haven't spoken to anyone about this, I think the reason they are so off on a cleanup method for the property between the DEP and Chemours is just what you stated. I am guessing that Chemours is asking for capping, and the DEP is telling them we're not going to accept capping. And I think that's where the difference is between both groups. And how long that takes to fix and how that's going to go, I can't speak to that. But at the end of the day, my guess is they're still far apart on how the cleanup is going to happen on the property, and it's probably what you just talked about.
And that scares me.
And I would bring all these, I will tell you, when I meet with the commissioner, and I've met with her a couple times.
You spoke to her too.
I know you did.
She knows my concern. I might have
Please.
spoken to you, but I'm just saying, she knows my concern.
I understand that.
I'm here all
Okay,
the
shh,
time.
shh, please,
Trying-
please.
Wait, I'm trying
No,
to
I'm going to ask you to leave in about a minute. Stop talking from the audience, or I'm going to ask you to leave. Okay? And I don't want to be mean, but it's not fair, because then everybody would do it. Please, okay? When I meet with the commissioner, these are the questions, I've been writing down a bunch of questions. These are the questions I will be asking her. And I want her to go public with the answers. I don't want her telling you one thing and telling you guys another thing and telling the newspaper a different thing. I want it out in the open. I'm a firm believer in all the information on this should be out in the open to everyone. Okay, but it should also come from the groups that are in charge, EPA and the DEP. They're the ones that need to give their opinions. They're the ones that need to speak up. I don't need to hear what Chemours has to say. I don't care what Chemours has to say. Okay? I care about what the EPA and DEPs have to say. Now, if you guys don't like them, you don't want them, you don't trust them, that's what it is. That is where we are. That is who is in charge of these cleanups. Okay? Not me. They are. Okay? We've seen it time and time again where there's been issues with EPA sites. I'm not going to lie. We have one very local that there's been problems with. Okay? But they're doing the best they can. I've got to believe that. Anyone else from the public like to address? Please step up.
Randy Hinton, 443 Montclair Ave. Quite a bit has been spoken on this, I don't have to go into it anymore. I just had a question on the legal notice. It said delete planned development, including golf courses. But then it says indoor recreation and passive outdoor recreation is permitted. What is...
Is that the old or the new?
This is just what it says on 190 attachment 1. Paper was right there. It says add planned commercial and industrial development.
Oh, that's on the actual ordinance?
Oh, wait a minute, is that the ordinance?
Yes, that's the legal ordinance, 1913 legal. It says passive outdoor recreation.
So passive outdoor
Isn't
recreation.
golf passive outdoor recreation?
No,
it's
it's hiking and things like that. But the problem...
Golf is not passive?
No, because it's treatment. There's people there all the time maintaining the course.
Interesting. That was my question. Also, my issue for years now has been Channel 77. I'm glad that you're tabling this ordinance 1913 because as of right now, before I left for the meeting, the March 27th meeting is still not on Channel 77.
Is that correct? I don't know that.
Who on the council watches Channel 77 to keep an eye on these things?
I don't even want to watch myself sitting here. You think I want to watch Channel 77? I don't have cable vision.
Oh, okay, there's one down, Frank's down.
I do not watch it.
Well, okay, but Channel 77 is an information outlet. At the OAM meeting, which I watched, Al Evangelista was very good, even you said, wants the homeowners in town to watch this meeting on Channel 77. Councilwoman Reichert said the same thing. It was a great presentation. She learns something every year from the slideshow that Al Evangelista puts on. Al here?
Well, I can address that. We had some concerns with Al getting us the tape, so there's been some problems.
So let me continue. There was a nice presentation this evening, and it was on that screen. Who on the council was really in charge of these screens? I have to compliment them because they're excellent.
Councilman Benton?
Okay, so he gets a compliment. But on the other end, he gets a criticism.
So I don't get a compliment.
He gets a criticism, because I said it before and I'll say it again. The meeting, the OEM meeting, when Al Evangelista is pointing to the screen for the slides, that Councilwoman Reichert so eloquently said were nicer every year, you only have a blank white screen.
Can I explain why, or would you like to hear why?
Well, I just haven't finished yet. So that nice presentation, which they showed the video, 10-1 when it comes out, you're going to see a blank white screen. And the people at home that you say should watch Channel 77 don't know what you're talking about.
So I'm misunderstanding. What you're saying is it's up on the television, but you can't see it on the Channel 77.
Correct.
Because of the way it films.
The way that this camera films that screen.
Okay.
It's a blank white screen.
Councilman Benton and I have been talking about getting a new camera that would be able to just address your concerns, because that camera is older, and we have some new court cameras that we don't use because they're used for court, but we're thinking about seeing if we can get one of those cameras to replace the camera in the back, just for the reasons you're bringing up.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So the compliment that you have the screen, but for people viewing at home, don't know what you're talking about, because the screen is...
And I will make a mention to look at it. So what you're telling me is anytime there's something on the screen, and it's on Channel 77, you can't read it or see it?
You can't see it. It's a white screen.
I did not know that, so...
Well, that's where you gotta watch Channel 77 once in a while. You know?
I live it. I don't have to watch it.
You live it. You don't have to watch it. But somebody here on the council should be reviewing Channel 77 to make sure all the information is correct. We're going to have an Easter egg hunt this Sunday, correct?
Yes.
That will not be on Channel 77. We don't film the Easter egg hunt.
No, you don't film the Easter egg hunt, but the announcement is on Channel 77, and it's incorrect. They have the Saturday and the Sunday reversed. It says Saturday, April 14th, which April 14th is a Sunday.
All right,
and then they say the rain date is Sunday, the 20th.
We make mistakes, there's no question.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Who here is reviewing Channel 77
Liz puts
to
the
make
information
sure the
on,
information is correct?
And there could have
No, I'm saying, if a mistake was put on by one of us or somebody else, then we'll have to address that, but mistakes happen.
Well, I understand that. But you have to be observant of the channel to make sure that mistakes are corrected.
And I will address that, and I will put Councilman Vennon in charge of watching Channel 77 24 hours a day to make sure.
I mean, it's not really a joke.
No,
I mean, this is an information statement.
I understand.
You know, where else would the people see the
There's
March
many
meeting?
avenues, there's many avenues to see things.
Okay, it's on the computer. Now, on the computer, March 27th meeting, the minutes are not on there.
Okay.
Whereas a lot of times you might go to your computer and want to just review the minutes, as opposed to...
They're not adopted yet.
They're not adopted yet. I don't put them up until the May.
And I'm gonna explain
Well,
this.
then you're 2 weeks late.
Okay. And I'm going to explain this again to everyone. It is not an obligation that we must do this. This is something that we think will help the residents and do it. We don't have, let me finish, please. We don't have a full-time person in charge of media that sits 24 hours a day watching and fixing, and we do the best we can.
Well, if this is your information station, of which you said...
One of many.
And Councilwoman Riker said, watch the OEM meeting, there's problems.
And I agree with that, and that we will address that. Thank you.
And you need to address it.
We will.
Because the first reading for 1913 was at the last March meeting.
That is correct, yes.
So now, if people were watching 77, they wouldn't even know that tonight was supposed to be the second reading.
Okay, well, then we will address that. I mean, I don't understand why it's not up. We'll have to figure out why it's not up.
Somebody...
I know, the individual does that, emailed us and said it was posted.
It was posted.
And she swapped out another meeting.
And if it's not up within a couple days, just call me. We'll follow up and make sure that it gets
We
up.
were told it was posted, we told the OEM meeting.
Told it was posted.
The OEM, I know, was told it was posted up.
Oh, the OEM is on there. It's on there 3, 4, 5 times. But the March 27th meeting is not on.
Was it ever on? Do we know? The March 27th?
She said she posted, I got emailed.
All right, so let's check and see. It might have been on. And then
It
we
wasn't
move-
on as far as 5 minutes to 7 tonight.
Well, it might have been on a week ago.
It wasn't on the last couple of days.
I'm sure you're not watching it 24 hours a day either.
Oh, I just have to watch it all the time. I'm retired.
Thank you for your comments.
Yes.
It is. Anyone else, please step up. No, we don't.
Good evening. Michael Keogh, 441 Rampo Avenue, Pompton Lakes. Maybe it's just me, but I'm looking at the zoning map, and I see PRC, Planned Recreational, for the DuPont area.
Stand now or the future?
Now, yes.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct, yeah.
So we're talking about, right now it's residential, and it's going to be changed to something else.
It's also, there's different sections, different zones.
What section was going to be changed? The one by the A&P used to be?
Actually, what we call the 70 acres, which is the developable part of that property, there's, it's 500 acres. It's only 70 that's developable. It's more of the lower end side, near the parking lot, and that way. The woods, obviously, in the mountain and the hills, I'm fighting to keep that as preserve and conservation. The
So
state-
I'm sorry, right now there's houses on it? There's
No.
commercial on it?
There's nothing.
I'm looking at the map
It's
and I'm...
empty. There's
I'm
nothing.
confused here. I see R5 for where there's houses. I see R8 for small section.
Right, there's nothing on it. But was proposed in our last master plan, there was proposals put in place that could put things there. We just never did it, but there was
So
proposals.
right now, what is the zoning on that spot that you're speaking of? What block of land?
Right now, in that area, I think it was a hotel, a golf course,
What is
residential.
the current zoning is what I'm asking.
Oh, I don't know the exact number. The same. What it is now.
It's,
What's on your...
Planned recreational, right?
yes.
That's the golf.
So it's not residential right now?
There is a component of it that is residential.
That's what I'm asking. What spot is
I don't know
residential?
exactly where that is. I can't.
So,
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
we're unclear to what spot it is?
So when it comes to zoning, you have to look at the entire zone, okay?
I understand.
So there's no, if planned recreational, uses are grouped into what's known as permitted uses. This is what you're able
Yes.
to build within
I
that
well
zone.
understand that.
It doesn't matter where the zone is, so there's no sub-zones of where residential is permitted, there's no sub-zone of where the golf course is permitted, there's no sub-zone of where, passive recreational is
I
permitted.
don't have so much time, so I
Right,
wanna-
so I
What
was
I'm
gonna get that
asking
point.
is, what's on the zoning map right now in the code?
Allows its planned recreational community, because that is
That's what I'm
not, that's what's permitted now. The zoning has not been changed, which is what this ordinance
We'll change it to
proposes.
exactly what code after you,
I think
if
that's
and
being
when you
proposed
do
as a
change.
hybrid industrial zone.
It's a new zone, it's a hybrid.
Right,
industrial.
different kinds of permitted uses.
And there's more, and it's set what, we've made some suggestions what we'd like to see.
And that will be a portion of the PRC?
That would be place the PRC.
The whole thing?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
That's correct.
So it's not a little portion?
No,
Well,
when you say a little portion, there's other standards related to zoning. So, for example, Pompton Lakes has what's known as the steep slope ordinance, okay? That you cannot build residential properties on what's known as steep slopes. If you've been in the DuPont site or even familiar with the geography and geology of it, there are steep slopes in there, which, again, because of other standards within the zoning, you couldn't necessarily build residential there.
I understand all that. What I'm specifically getting at is what is it going to be zoned? And in that zoning, there's a specific explanation of what you can allow. The PRC is what you can allow. Residential is what you can allow. There's so much per square, size, site area, minimum depth. You get into all of that, but when you zone it a certain thing, you're saying this is what we'll allow in that zone.
Yes.
So right now, it is planned recreation, not residential.
No, the name of the zone is planned recreational community, okay?
District, yes.
Within, whatever it is, yes. Within that planned recreational community district, that zone, permitted uses are residential, golf courses, hotel, passive recreational activities, other things.
Limited residential, probably.
There's no such thing as limited residential. I don't know what limited residential.
There's limitations in zoning. Yes, there is. Like, there's one section in town, for instance, by Riverdale Boulevard. They put houses in conservation. Now, you cannot, without saying, may I, and getting a variance, do anything to those houses other than what you have there right now. If it gets destroyed, you put it back on the same footprint.
But that's not
There is limitation.
zoning.
Sorry?
Don't confuse environmental standards and
I
building
did not even get out of environmental
requirements.
standards. I was saying what's allowed there. I didn't mention
All right, so I'm gonna cut this a little short because we're going late, but I understand your questions, and I would ask you to go to the tax office and ask those questions, and maybe get some better
You can
answers.
research it on zoning right online.
Yeah, but we're not doing that now, so we don't have the privilege of
Well, what
looking
I'm
at it.
saying is I don't think everybody understands exactly what the zoning is now and what you're trying to get at, and we're debating something without people fully understanding it. Right now, it is not. On that piece of property, residential in any way, it's not R1.
There's
It's
a
not area.
component to what it's listed as a residential in that component.
There's
not a
direct definition. No, it's PRC. Open space is
Please stop talking to your place, please.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you for
There's some
coming.
confusion there, and
I get it, and maybe I can get
I
your...
don't think people understand. I think you should further research and specifically understand what we're getting at here.
And maybe I can get a better explanation over time, we can get a better explanation. Yes, please step up.
Absolutely nothing about the ordinance. Simple question, maybe someone can get back to me.
I need your name and address.
Oh, sorry. Ken Horner, 94 Mountainside, up the Highlands. So on Cannonball Road, DuPont Place is the little right-hand turn to go over the little bridge to go through the back way of DuPont Village, whatever you want to call it. There's a little patch of roadway between DuPont Place and an entrance to the Highlands Townhome Community up on the mountain.
Okay.
And my question is, who owns that part of the roadway?
It's a good question.
It never gets plowed.
So you're talking about...
It's not maintained. I went to the county garage over here on Ringwood Ave, and according to them, it's not a county road. I went to DPW.
It doesn't get plowed at all?
Never. So did nothing.
We can, first of all, we'll just plow it right now till it's over now, but we'll look into
In general,
it.
yeah.
But can you give me the actual street?
It's Cannonball Road.
Cannonball Road.
Between the entrance to the Highlands and DuPont Place, which is that little side street.
Yeah. I don't know who owns that. Can we look into that, Kevin, and see who owns that?
So the town doesn't...
I don't know. It could even be Camorra's. I don't know. So we're
They
looking
put up the
into it.
maps over in the county, and they said, not ours either.
It's not a county, because that's not county area over there, but it's either ours or Camorra's. That's what it would be. Yeah, but not up towards...
County, it's on Cannonball between...
Before you enter our community.
Right.
Yeah. That little patch.
I mean, to live in Highlands.
Yeah, right.
I've never had an issue with that being plowed, so that must be
Never
a
gets
development.
Well, we'll look into it, and if it is ours, we'll plow it. And
Just out of curiosity.
If it's the county, we'll make them plow it. So-
Fair enough. Yeah. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Anyone else like to address? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close?
Can I ask just?
You've got to come up with the microphone, Bill.
Jennifer Schnee, 22 Orchard Street.
Nobody heard you.
Jennifer Schnee, 22 Orchard Street.
Please, we have someone talking. Okay.
Jennifer Schnee.
No, we got you. Good, you're good.
22 Orchard Street. Okay. So I just had a couple of questions. So, can you talk about, the EPA and the DEP doing studies? Tests on the land over there. But why don't we do why don't you guys have an independent study?
Because the EPA and DEP are independent. They're not working for anyone, they're working for the government.
Right, but why wouldn't you get a second opinion?
Because at the end of the day, even if we got a second opinion, the EPA and DEP that would be their decisions. It's their decisions.
But you do go and speak on our behalf to these people, no?
I speak to them as the parties responsible for overseeing the cleanup. They're responsible for making sure things are done correctly. If someone is not trusting in what they're doing, and I'm not saying that's you, but I'm saying if someone in general is not trusting of what they're doing, then they need to bring those concerns up to them. But after that, say you brought it up to them, there is nobody else after that would be addressing it. The town could never afford to clean up or take care of this. So this is why the EPA and DEP are involved, because they have a polluter who's responsible and is going to have to pay for the cleanup. So they're going to tell them what needs to be done, and they have to pay for it. Now, the argument we're at to this point is, and a couple residents have brought it up, how the cleanup will be on the property. And I think the distinction of the problems is it going to be capping? Is it going to be dug out? And I think that the DEP, through the Attorney General, through the Commissioner, have stated some facts that they'd like to see, and maybe Comores is not happy with those facts. And that's what's going to be the negotiation between those two parties, not us. We don't have a negotiation. We don't have a say in that.
I find that just a little hard to understand that if your town and its people are suffering and dying, then why aren't you there, next to us fighting against these people, rather than, we just look like these crazy people?
Look, there's a group of people here who represent a piece of my town. I have a whole town and that's why I keep trying to say this is not a Plume problem, this is a Pompton Lakes problem. I brought them up. What do you mean, where are they?
This isn't a Pompton Lakes problem.
It is a
They would
Pompton
be
Lakes
here.
problem. Believe me when I tell you, people come to me all the time and ask about what's going, and they don't live in the Plume, they don't live near the Plume. They want to know about it because it affects them. It affects me. It affects everyone on this council. My house, some people in this room know, was dug up for lead and mercury in the 80s. So it affects everyone here. What you're saying, though, is why aren't we standing behind them? We're standing behind the EPA and the DEP. That's who we stand behind. Those are the people responsible to make sure this cleanup is done correctly. We don't stand behind Comores. We have no say with Comores. We don't care about Comores. But we do care about the EPA and DEP. Now, sometimes they get things wrong. But that's why there's two agencies. So one kind of oversees the other and says, hey, this isn't right, you need to do this. And that's why they're working jointly. And that's where it is. That's how the cleanups are done in the country. Not just here, everywhere.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? Please step up.
I just want to make this statement.
Sure. Name and date.
22 Orchard Street.
Thank you.
I strongly oppose one vote for Ordinance 1913. If the DuPont contaminated property zoning was changed to commercial, industrial, the contamination could remain on the site and could threaten the health and safety of my family. My biggest concern, if you rezone it, they dig up there, is more contamination going to come down underneath my house? If I'm going to have to keep going to the doctor, you're going to have more illnesses because they don't want to do the cleanup?
And look, this is my biggest fight. I don't want to get caught, as a town, I don't want our town, our residents, the people that are in this room, getting caught up in a battle between the DEP and Comores. That's the worst thing that can happen, because then nothing gets done. At the end of the day, I'm hoping the DEP has enough say and enough power, and the EPA, to be forceful enough to demand what they want. And Comores has a backing and has some money, and they can do what they gotta do. But DEP and the EPA have to stand to their guns. If they come with something and they want it, then they have to fight for that. You know, and I am going to fight the battle that if the EPA and DEP are requesting something, that's where I am. I am backing that up. And if that's not what Comores wants, that's fine. Okay, but it's them that are gonna lead the charge. And they have to stick to their guns. And that's why I will be meeting again with them to remind them they're leading the charge for our residents. Our residents have their trust in them. This is who they need to trust. And if there's any concerns or questions, the EPA's here every Thursday, and I know some of you come and talk to them. You should bring these points up to them. I bring it up to them. I meet with them every Thursday. I bring it up to them all the time. And, you know, they take it down. It's a slow process. This whole thing is slow. We had the meeting with the commissioner here in town. I know they met with some of the residents. They also came and met with some of the council. That was what was driven home. This process is going too slow. How do we speed it up? But there was no real answer to that. I asked for a timetable. I can't get a timetable. You know, it's a problem. That's my biggest problem with the whole thing. And I don't know how to address it. I'll be honest. I don't know how to fix it.
Well, I think a lot of the people feel if you do the rezoning, is that going to affect this lawsuit? Does that mean they're going to...
No, it won't.
You know this. You know this for a fact.
I can say why. The only reason I can tell you is the reason we're doing it has nothing to do with a lawsuit or Comores. Comores has no part in this.
But you know that for a fact.
That they're no part in this? Yes.
Okay, you know that. It's not going to change the lawsuit. We're not going to...
I don't know anything about a lawsuit. I'm not involved in a lawsuit. That has nothing to do with me.
It involves your town. How can you keep sitting
Please.
You're a third party?
Please. One more time, I'm going to have to ask you. Okay? At the end of the day, what the question you just asked is, I can't speak for a lawsuit. Okay? I can speak to the fact that we are doing this because we have to do this for a master plan. What the DEP and the EPA decide, tomorrow this could become a Superfund site. If that happens, things change again, and it just slows the process down. Okay? There's good to that and there's bad to that. Okay? But at the end of the day, it's about getting the project, getting it done. I think we've made some progress. I really, I've been in town a long time, and a lot of these residents have been in town a long time. There was nothing done for many years. We're trying to move this along. It's just, I can't push it as fast as I'd like to see it pushed.
So you also will find out if there's any kind of building up there that will not affect any of us? If you build on that property?
Either way, they have to clean that property up.
Any of us?
Either way, they're going to be digging on that property. Building or no building.
But what if it says that the contamination is going to come down?
That's going to be an EPA and DEP decision. And of course, I will bring that to them, but no matter if we put nothing there, nothing is built. They're going to take dirt out of there. They're going to cap some of it. They're going to dig some of it. They're going to do what is told to them to do, and that involves taking it out. And it's the same thing as putting in a foundation. It's the same kind of process. They're going to either dig it or cap it or do something to it. Like they've done all over the country, by the way. This is not just here. So this is not a unique project here. We have our unique issues with it, but if you go any brownfield, they call it, that's how they handle it. It's either capped or it's dug out and removed. Those were the two things. You guys, and I'm going to say you guys, and I was part of it too, we fought the pilot because they wouldn't give us insurance for the flooding, but that was one of their suggestions of how it might help move the vapors along. It was turned down by the DEP. They did listen. I will give them credit. They did listen to the residents and to the council up here, and decided not to go along with that pilot. But this is a new thing. There's not a lot of information on how to clean this. So they're going to go with the old system, which is capping and digging. That's what it is.
We don't want that.
Yeah, no. I mean, if you lived in our homes...
I understand. I don't live in your homes.
A vapor system, what is that doing?
I understand that.
Putting a fan underneath our house and telling us we're good?
I understand. That's a hard thing, and I don't live there, so I don't know that. But I can imagine that I would be unsettled to have my family knowing I had a vapor system there. I understand that.
Well, I just hope that you'll address some of these issues.
I will.
That we don't want it.
And you guys are always welcome to do that. I mean, you are welcome to coach, speak to the DP. I have no issues with you guys talking to the commissioner, meeting with the attorney. That's never my issue. My issue is when they come to my town, they don't inform me of what's going on. That's a problem. That's not how government is supposed to work. And that's my issue with the Attorney General. You want to come and make an announcement, then just let me know what the announcement is and make your announcement. But I understand maybe there was some reasons why they didn't do that. But then say at least come to the press conference. Please come to the press conference and watch what we're going to announce. They didn't even do that. They just called my business administrator and said, we're going to close the road down. That's all they would tell us. That's just not how things are done.
If something's wrong, if they'll tell us, and they're not telling you.
I have a real problem with it. I've got a real
Why
problem with
is
that.
that? Why are they telling us and not you?
I think...
That's what we'd like to know.
We'd like to know that.
We'd like to know that too.
Is it that they don't want you there?
And you're doing it right now and you can't.
Exactly.
So
Don't worry, I speak up. I got a bigger mouth than you. Believe me.
I understand. Please.
Believe me.
Thank you.
Is that what it is, that they don't want you?
No.
Oh, maybe they don't want, who knows? We'll find out.
Maybe, I'm not gonna answer that. I will find out.
Who knows what the reason is?
I don't know the answer.
We'll find out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address?
I just want to go quickly
Got
on
5 minutes.
record
Go.
that I'm against the rezoning, and I want to do it now because I might miss the...
Name and address.
I don't know when... Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Gita Curtis, and I'm at 111 Ramapo Ave.
Okay.
Okay, I don't want to do it now because I don't know when you're tabling it to. I might miss it in the trends. So, I'm opposed to it strongly, and here's why. Is because it lowers the standards of a cleanup. So I know this is a bit repetitive to what other people are saying, but I just want to say it for me.
Okay.
And I understand the whole thing with the master plan, how to do this, and it might not be related to that, but it does impact it. If you rezone it, they have to clean up to a lower standard. And I'm shaking because I do not like it. So, they are related. It might be an unintended consequence, but it's a consequence of your action.
Okay.
So I take that into consideration. And also, specifically to the mayor, I've heard you say so many times, like in different, I watch you on YouTube, you guys are all YouTube stars on the council meeting. I've heard you say it's private property, so I can't impact it.
By law, I can't. I have no say.
I don't know. I'm a private property owner, and I can't build a tiny house in my backyard and charge rent or grow my grass. You can impact it.
No, I can
There are remedies
laws. I
available.
can, yes, but
No, there's remedies available, and I would...
when you say there's remedies available, what do you mean?
I say, I'm sorry, I'm shaking this.
That's
so
okay.
you're rushing. But, I don't know. If I was in your shoes, which I'll never be because I can't public speak, is I would consult with an environmental lawyer and find out what the town's remedies are to address this issue, get it done, put it to bed.
We've done that. We've done that. Years ago, we did that.
Go see another one, because there's other things we can do. Other towns are doing it, we need to do it.
But so what you're
Because
saying
it's
is you
like,
don't trust
for
the...
years- No,
You don't trust the EPA and DEP?
no.
So if you don't trust them, what is the alternative?
I'm telling you,
So make a suggestion. If you don't trust...
independently,
And then
as a
who's
town,
gonna pay for that?
we are,
Who's we?
the town. You just put $200,000 aside
This is
for
millions,
potholes.
this is millions and
Not to
millions.
clean it, but to find out what
That's
our remedies
millions.
are. I'm talking about consulting an attorney.
But that doesn't mean the EPA has to listen to it.
There's courts, there's...
So you want to drag this into court, so we'll go 20 years, nothing will get done.
I don't believe it.
It's gonna happen,
I
trust
don't
me.
believe, well, what's another 20? We've already been 30.
That's not how I look at it.
But it's true. So I would just say,
All right, well, thank you for your statement. I don't agree with that, but I thank you for that.
Okay, I'm done.
No, you got another minute if you want to.
And I guess for the council, I'd say it's pretty much, there hasn't been a dissenting council vote in a long time. this
In what?
town.
In general?
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
So that means
So what?
that you
We
all
have to do agree.
all the time. It's very bizarre. There's got to be
There's nothing bizarre with
someone
that.
of a different...
I will tell you this, to answer your question
It's
with
like
that,
rubber stamp, rubber stamp,
Stop.
rubber stamp.
if you don't like it, then we're voted in, then we would be voted out.
Well, not everybody voted for you. I
No,
mean,
but I'm saying...
two-thirds, there's what, 30
So that's what you have to look at it, though. That's what we're going by. We represent the
You
people that voted.
represent the whole town,
The
even
whole
the
town,
people that
of
didn't vote
course.
for you.
Of course.
But
Of
it's just
course.
something to consider, because it
That's
seems odd to
unacceptable,
me...
that comment. I will be honest. That's an unacceptable comment. Just because we vote and agree on something doesn't mean that there's a reason behind it.
Just the odds of it are just very...
Okay, well, I appreciate your comment. Thank you.
But that's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Anyone else from the public like to address? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session? So moved. Councilman Delisle. Second. Council President Wright. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so I gave our residents a very long time to talk. If anybody would like to add anything up here, I'm going to give you a chance to say something about everything we just heard. If you don't, you don't have to, but just raise your hand if you want to say something. If not, no big deal. Nobody? Okay.
Oh, like I said, as far as the rubber stamping, I don't know what I mean by that. Just because we get things done and we do things, whether we rubber stamp or not, you say that's something that's pretty odd to you. I don't know, where should you go? Oh, you're right there, I'm sorry. I take offense to that. I don't care what they do, I do what I feel is right. And if that's agreeing with them all the time, well, then so be it, I agree. And if it's not, I'll be the first one to say, "Listen, I got a big mouth." All right? So as far as that, whatever. It's pretty odd to me. It's pretty odd to me. A lot of things are pretty odd to me. It's pretty odd to me, Attorney General, that's supposed to represent us, all of us. We're all Republican up here, and guess what? You don't invite not one of us. Why? Because we're Republican? That's pretty odd. I don't get a call, huh? A Democratic governor? I don't get a call. That's pretty odd, isn't it? We don't get a call.
Yes, please.
I stand by what I...
What I'm saying, that's pretty odd.
All right, guys, listen, the only reason I did
What I'm
this
saying is pretty odd, isn't it?
this council sat and listened to all your concerns and questions, and I thought we did a pretty fair job of kind of listening to what you have to say. So I would like, at least if my council wants to say an opinion, they would please just say it a little easier and gentler. But get your point across, and I agree with what everybody's saying, but I just want everybody to have a chance to, communication to me is the key to everything we do. So, it's their opinion if they want to say something. Go ahead.
Let's look at what you're looking for is to keep this zone residential, so it gets cleaned up.
No talking from the audience, please. I'm not going to ask again, please.
Let's say the DEP and the EPA bring it to residential standards. And now you don't trust them as it is now. But let's say they bring it to those standards and now they build on it, and then we come up with a situation where they find more contamination. Now you got buildings on that property. So,
all right, that's it.
there comes the point.
I'm going to ask. I don't want to ask you, please. I hate doing it. Please, don't do it again.
I'm so passionate.
I know, me too, but I have to put my foot down.
And there comes the point. It's happened before, and it's happened in other places where the standards haven't always been met. And that's a possibility. But is it better to have commercial on there, or is it better to have residential on there and be contaminated where people are living there? Think about it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, let's move on with our agenda. The point is, you can't be speaking from the audience.
I agree with you.
Okay, please, don't let me have to go, please. Okay. Approval of minutes. Motion to approve the following minutes. Special meeting, workshop meeting minutes of March 27th, 2019. Regular meeting minutes of March 27th, 2019. Line excused on both. Can I have a motion? Councilwoman Caldori, Councilman Giaconetta, all in favor?
Aye.
Against?
Present.
Present, yes. Bills and claims as listed below. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Councilman Giaconetta? Second. Councilman Begg, all in favor?
Aye.
Against?
Present.
Guys, we're trying to run a meeting here, so please, consent agenda.
Hold on a second. I just want to make sure I'm voting present on the bills and claims. Okay.
Consent agenda whenever you're ready.
Can we pull resolution 19-96, just so it's more clear?
Anybody else? Okay.
Whereas the mayor and council of the borough of Pompton Lakes have reviewed the consent agenda consisting of various proposed resolutions, whereas the mayor and council of the borough of Pompton Lakes does desire to remove resolutions for individual action from that agenda. Now, therefore, be resolved that the following resolutions on the consent agenda are hereby approved. Resolution 19-92 through 19-95, we're pulling 19-96.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Council President Riker?
Second.
Councilman Devine, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? All right, resolution 1996.
Authorizing the mayor and clerk to access indemnification and hold harmless agreement with Camorra's Company LLC in connection with the installation of groundwater monitoring well points.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I have a motion. Councilman Devine, second. Councilman Giaconetti. Discussion? Okay, you just want to update us on that?
I'll explain it.
Okay.
The DEP's required Camorra's to place 2 more monitoring wells in the Broadway area, to do the wells that were damaged during the construction
Oh, these are the
of the Broadway project. This agreement provides, first of all, they have to get an opening permit, which is reviewed by the engineer, to be fees attached to the opening permit. This is identification, to identify the borough, and hold us harmless for any work that Camorra's does relative to putting a little small monitoring well on the ground.
So just to follow up, now I understand. When we were having curbs and streets put in, our contractor ripped out 2 of these monitoring wells. And the only people that should be putting them in is Camorra's. But we're going to, we want to be held harmless if there's any problems or concerns with that. They have to be replaced, obviously. So that's what's going on with this. They're replacing those 2 wells.
I just have a question. I guess I don't remember seeing this in the past. It says Camorra's Company FC. What does that say then?
I just copied it off the, I don't know what that means, I copied off the agreement. I don't know what that
Okay, because I'm used to seeing Camorra's LLC.
That's
Okay.
exactly how it is
That's how it
on
works.
the identification.
Okay, thank you. We'll have to check into it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, motion to approve Resolution 1996. Oh, we did that. I'm sorry. All in favor? Oh, roll call. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Do a roll call.
Councilman Devine?
Yes.
Councilman Giaconetti?
Yes.
Councilwoman Polidori?
Yes.
Councilman Riker?
Yes.
Councilman Bennett?
Yes.
Councilman Day?
Yes.
Okay. Introduction, separate action. Resolution, separate action.
There are none.
Oh, there are none. I'm sorry.
Now we're going to do the ordinances.
Yeah, the ordinance.
First reading and introduction. Ordinance will be presented for second reading and final adoption on April 24th. An ordinance authorizing and directing the mayor and clerk to execute the Second Amendment to the lease by and between the Borough and Ocean Lake Realty LLC for the Pompton Lakes Teen Center.
Ordinance 1914 is the ordinance for the lease with the company that owns the building and where the teen center is. So it's our teen center lease. I think it's 3 years this time, right? Yeah.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve ordinance 1914 for introduction?
So moved.
Councilman Bennett?
Second.
Council President Riker, roll call, please.
Just,
I don't need a roll call.
well, it's your first reading. Yeah, you can do it.
Councilman Devine?
Yes.
Councilman Giaconetti?
Yes.
Councilwoman Polidori?
Yes.
Councilman Riker?
Yes.
Councilman Bennett?
Yes.
Councilman Day?
Yes.
So you need a motion to carry ordinance.
All right, so I just need a motion to carry ordinance 1913.
I'll make the motion.
Councilman DeLine?
Second.
Councilwoman Polidori? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? So the motion has been carried. Okay, under my report. We have an Easter egg hunt this Sunday. I think it's at 3 o'clock?
3 o'clock, and that's April 14th.
Right, April 14th, 3 o'clock. All are welcome at the tennis courts down at Hirschfield Park. We had a new grand opening on Friday of a new real estate agency coming in. They're going to do commercial real estate and local real estate, so welcome to them. It's always nice to see new businesses coming into town. Most of us all here marched in the Little League Parade, which is always a nice function. There was an announcement made that most towns are getting rid of their Little League parades, and we were one of the last ones to keep it, which is a nice tradition to keep. I appreciate the fact that they're doing that. We had a meeting with our stigma-free group that is moving along. We'll start training of our officers and police, first aid, fire, I think in the next week or 2. They will be trained in identifying concerns with stigma and mental health. Once we get through that, we'll have another session that will open up to some town employees and maybe some school employees. I think the goal at the end of the day is to get as many people as we can to identify stigma or mental health issues and get people to get their help before things get worse for them or for wherever they are. So I think it's a great program. It's a knowledgeable group of people there that are involved, and I look forward to working with that. We saw our Alliance tomorrow. Our Alliance will be doing a presentation at the library on, what's the actual title? Is it alcohol?
You have it in your report?
What's
Bill has
talking to
it.
kids about marijuana use? About alcohol. Marijuana and alcohol. Yeah, both. It's both, right? Yeah, okay. So they'll be doing a presentation at the library on kids' use of marijuana and alcohol, not representative to our town, but just in general informational site. You know, we have these presentations quite often, and, you know, Pompton Lakes is pretty good about getting to most groups. We don't get a lot of participation from the parents in these kind of groups, but yet I get a lot of calls from parents, especially younger parents, asking what we're doing about the opioid epidemic, what we're doing about the vaping in town, what we're doing about, you know, drinking. This is the grassroots kind of stuff that starts in the elementary school, and the parents and the PTAs, and they should really be involved more with this, and then it would spread. And so, please, pass that information around. I think it's very valuable information. You know, it's a tough time for any kid growing up now, just with all the stuff that's out there. So it's good that the parents can get at least a little knowledge on how to handle it and give you a little help moving forward. I'm going to keep my report short because we have a little meeting, so I'm going to move over. I'm going to ask everybody here, maybe try to do that. I'm going to move over to Council President Reitz.
Okay, I will do the same. I want to acknowledge the Hawk group that was here. I wish them much luck in their competition in the next few weeks. Frankly, the PSA that they showed us was really chilling, and there was dead silence at the end. It really struck home. So they did an excellent job, and I hope they do well in the competition. I want to acknowledge the Women's Club. The mayor had announced when they got their proclamation that this is one of those special volunteer organizations. You've heard last month and the month before, myself and Councilwoman Polidori talking about how the Women's Club had done a very successful shoe event, and today you saw that they got a proclamation acknowledging their participation in preventing child abuse, and they're constantly doing things, and what's going on here in town, you know, in terms of, we cleaned out our closets for the shoes, and this month we can clean out our bookshelves. Our library is busily collecting books for our book sale coming up, and if you're still cleaning out your closets, hold the stuff back again, because the women's group will have a huge presence in our all-town garage sale, and they raise lots of money for these projects that you see them doing. Congratulations are also, WGHT was on the air. So congratulations to them. Please get the word out so people begin to listen to them. In addition to being spring and spring cleaning, I've noticed, unfortunately, that our students are enjoying the outside. Fortunately, they're riding to school, they're getting exercise. Unfortunately, they're not wearing their helmets. I have not seen any helmets on the students. So I asked Liz, and thank you for really jumping on it. Both the ice cream station and Wendy's has given us a whole new supply of coupons to encourage them to wear helmets, that if the police see that they have helmets, they will reward them, and hopefully there will be a little bit of peer pressure. One of the things I'd like to mention to the chief, I don't know if this is possible, in addition to giving them to the police officers, I didn't know if perhaps we might be able to give part of them to the crossing guards, because they're the ones that are really on the ground, and they see the kids as they're coming to school. So would it be the chief that I would? I'll talk to the chief and see if he feels that that's appropriate, because we have a very ample supply. Both Wendy's and Ice Cream Station are willing to give us more if we need them. So whatever we can do to get these kids to wear their helmets, let's try as a community to since this is an outdoor community, this is a walking community, this is a community with sidewalks and multi-generational, if we can get these kids with helmets, it would really be a wonderful thing. Again, with the theme of the warm weather coming, the Pride group sent out an announcement that they're buying the kayaks for the photo contest coming up. So the photo contest, now that the lake, all the construction is finished in the lake, photo contest is back on. Just as I was sitting here at the dais, just got a magnificent picture of the sunset over the lake today. So as you see them, snap some pictures and submit them later in the year. I guess, Mayor, the last thing is, many of us up here on the dais get the League of Municipalities monthly magazine, and in April, they were acknowledging Local Government Week, and our library was acknowledged as a wonderful and outstanding municipal...
And that's a big deal.
...municipal building. So, it's nice to get a little good press.
Yes, that's nice.
Anyhow, that's my report.
Okay, thank you. I forgot to mention my report, I'm sorry. Congresswoman Cheryl came to our town Friday, and I gave her a tour of the dam and our flooding, and, she's our new congresswoman here, and I give her credit for coming down here to Pompton Lakes, taking the time out of her busy schedule to just understand what we're going through with flooding. I can't, thank you. And she was very receptive. She did listen to a lot of the ideas and suggestions we had, and hopefully she can take that to FEMA and, and talk to them about the suggestions. One of the suggestions I made to her is I'd like to see FEMA have some granting available for towns like ours and others to clean out the rivers of debris and silt that we're doing now. We're paying for it. We're paying a lot of money for it. FEMA could put somebody aside would be great, helpful for all the towns. And I'm a firm believer that if we clean the river from here all the way down to the bay, on these nuisance floods, which I call the nuisance floods, we won't flood. Obviously, when we have a big storm, we will be in trouble, but, these nuisance floods can be worked with that. Also, on that same note, I met yesterday with Freeholder Barrett from the county, from Passaic County. He came up to just see how things are going here in town. I appreciate him coming up. My suggestion to him is, every county road coming into Pompton Lakes is a mess. I'd like to see them repaved and a little better job going in. I mentioned to him that when I fought very hard to get Lakeside Bridge repaved, the county came in and paved it, but they only paid half of it because the other half was Wayne, and they didn't decide they didn't need to pave that side. He said that's unacceptable. If they were on the bridge, they should have just paved the whole lane all the way up. So it's always good that a freeholder comes into town and pays attention to what we're doing and gives us a little helping hand if we need it, and it's nice to have an open dialogue with them that we can talk about that. And I also have the Shade Tree Commission was honored with Arbor Day. No, that's the wrong one. Pompton Lakes was named 2018 Tree City USA again. We've been named for the last 10 years for that. It's a big designation, and it shows all the hard work and dedication our Shade Tree Committee does in getting out there and doing what they have to do. We've had some big windstorms in the last couple of weeks. Unfortunately, I did lose power, but I understand it wasn't because of a tree in Pompton Lakes. It was a tree in Riverdale. But normally we don't have a lot of power outages here, and that has a lot to do with the fact that the Shade Tree Commission stays on top of the branches and reaches out. What is that? 11 years, I'm sorry. He has a sign that says 11 years. Okay. Moving on, Councilman DeWine.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Wanted to start off by wishing my condolences to Pat Lenoy and her family for the loss of her husband, Charlie. Pat Lenoy is the corresponding secretary to the Flood Advisory Board. She is 100% there. She's continually counted on. She gets the agenda out. She's a dedicated volunteer. So was her husband. Actually, speaking of the Little League Parade, Charlie was a longtime volunteer as an umpire and helping to maintain the fields. And they were married for over 60 years, actually, which was pretty amazing. I also met with Congresswoman Cheryl along with the mayor. I won't add too much other than just to add on that another item of discussion that we brought up was the need to reform the National Flood Insurance Program. Our Senator Booker and Senator Menendez are the Senate the Senate sponsors of that bill, and there's a congressman out of Louisiana that's also the sponsor, and she showed some interest in that. I had one of her aides kind of reach out to, I think, Congressman Malinowski to find out more information. So again, that's something that our Flood Advisory Board has been keyed in on through a lot of their research, have talked about on a number of things, and, again, that's just something I think our residents, particularly in the South End, have a need for, is not just having this annual, refreshment of what the program is, but it really does need some greater reforms and keeping that program going. Speaking of flood-prone areas, last month we finally heard back from the New Jersey DEP on where we wanted to put the community garden. For those that didn't know, we were looking at a spot along the Morris Canal Greenway. Unfortunately, New Jersey Parks and Forestry had some significant concerns about the more or less chicken wire fencing that we wanted to put up, and that would block debris and floodwaters. As a result, they would only sort of permit a stockade fence, which is basically useless for a community garden. So we're going to be looking at around the first aid squad. I want to thank Kevin for actually coming up with that idea, reaching out to the first aid squad. So we're actually, the community garden committee, which hasn't met for a long time, is looking at Monday, May 6th, a meeting, kind of getting that ball rolling again in an area that we don't have to worry about permitting.
Do we have a committee for that, or we don't?
We do. We have had a committee, yes. If anybody else is interested in being part of it, obviously we can always use more members. Lastly, the only thing, two more things. The past couple of months I've attended the Board of Education meeting. The previous meeting before last night, they announced the retirement of Principal Shadyac from Lincoln School at the end of the year. There was a lot of solemn faces. He's been, quite the educator through the district. So, I very much know that he'll be missed. They also announced the retirement of high school math teacher Nancy Sarnelli will be retiring at the end of the year, and she's been a longtime math teacher. And it was interesting, they relayed a story about Miss Sarnelli, that when she was trying to become a math teacher in Pompton Lakes, one of the reasons why she was influenced in becoming a math teacher was the previous math teacher that she had learned under in high school. And the teacher that the Board of Education is hiring now, who is Mike's daughter, Noelle, also wrote a letter when she was interviewing for the board, talking about how she chose math because of Miss Sarnelli. So I thought it was pretty poetic change of events as a result of that. Last night, the Board of Education recognized the Teachers of the Year, and one of the board members, Tim Trost, had to step down due to a conflict of interest on another position he's taking. So the board interviewed 4 candidates, 4 excellent candidates, I thought, from what I know of all of them, and they selected John Yao to be the new Board of Education representative. And then lastly, there is a family hike being put on by the Pompton Lakes Trails Committee this Sunday. Saturday, April 13th at 2 p.m. at the Mount Hope Historical Park in Rockaway Township. Again, the idea of these hikes are to connect families with each other, and it's designed to be achievable by young kids and our families with young kids. So if anybody's interested in getting outdoors, enjoying the nice weather, which is finally starting to turn, there'll be a number of people out there hiking. And that concludes my report there.
Okay, great, thank you. Councilman Giaconetti.
Thank you, Mayor. I was also at the ribbon cutting for Alexander Anderson over at 200 Wanacue Ave, ribbon cutting. It was good to see them, and they're pretty excited about some of the redevelopment going here in town. They are big out of Hackensack and did a lot of development there, and are hoping to do some of that here in Pompton Lakes. It was a good reception. A lot of people were there, other business owners, so hopefully something comes of that. March in the Little League Parade. And it was nice to see our mayor, and along with Councilwoman Polidori, throughout the first pitch with all the kids and everything, and it was a good day. Lastly, the Shade Tree Commission meeting, as the mayor mentioned, 11 years. Thank you for mentioning that, Mayor. Pretty proud of them. Shade Tree has been very busy and ramping up. They have a together, last month, they did almost 50 hours of volunteer service hours, so that's pretty good. They also have a tree list of 50 trees that are going to be taken down. Matter of fact, Randy was mentioning a couple of them are in Veterans Park. If you remember, before Veterans Park, we had that one that fell, that big tree. So there's a couple on the other side that he noticed, and he's gonna have John Lynch and look at it, but we're gonna take a couple on that side down too, just in case the kids come by, residents, and it's gonna start getting used. So we put that on our list, so I just wanted to mention that, just so you know. So you see a couple trees in there, but it's for safety. Also, they have, spring planting is in full swing. There's 15 trees that are on the planting list this year, and this doesn't even include the 100 trees that they're gonna plant for the grant. So this is just in addition to the 15 trees. So we've been pretty busy and ramping up. It's that time of year again. And also, just a reminder, next meeting is the Arbor Day poems. We're going to have the children here from the different elementary schools, Lincoln, Lennox, and St. Mary's.
Essays.
The essays, yes, thank you. And they're going to be here, so just remember that, come next one. They're going to be here. It's always a good time, and the things they come up with, so looking forward to that. That's the next meeting. All right, that's all I have.
Maybe you guys can help me in the audience here. I know I have some shade tree. Do we have an opening on shade tree? I thought we had an opening.
Yes.
We do, right? Yeah. So we do have an opening for shade tree, so somebody would like to be interested on getting on the shade tree commission, please let me know, or you can reach out to shade tree directly. They're a good group, and they put a lot of information.
Myself, reach out to me, anybody, all right.
Or Frank, Councilman Jekyll, sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, Councilwoman Paladori.
Thank you. I also want to thank members of the coalition and Hawk, along with the Women's Club, for their presentations tonight. Not to spend too much time going back into the Women's Club, but it is an organization that I've been very proud to be a part of for many years. We do a lot of wonderful things in the community. Membership has increased exponentially in the last couple of months. I think the word is starting to get out about how much work the organization does and how wonderful it is to be a part of it. So I encourage all of you to come see a meeting and find out what it is that we are all about. I marched in the Little League Parade and was very happy to be able to throw out the softball for the opening pitch and actually make it over the plate. So I was very nervous when I walked up there. So Mayor Mike let me step up a little closer.
I needed to be closer myself.
We also had coffee with the council again on this past
Monday.
Yes, Monday. And in celebration of Local Government Week, we were also joined by Senator Corrado, and it was very nice to be able to see that moving the city evenings has helped bring more residents out. So we did have some residents come and sit with us and voice some questions and concerns that we were able to speak with them one-on-one about. We did have one of the little elementary school students there who was very happy to come out with her latte and meet the mayor, and even more thrilled when she realized she was able to meet the senator. So,
Yeah, she threw me aside in a second.
so it was very nice. I also attended the grand opening for Alexander Anderson Real Estate. It's very nice to see new businesses coming into town, so I welcome them and wish them well. On behalf of the Rec Committee, I encourage you to continue to check the Facebook page and website to see what some of the upcoming programs are. Yoga and Get Fit continue on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Mondays and Wednesdays, as well as an assortment of other programs that are either of no cost or very low cost to the residents. A reminder that the MUA has hydrant flushing on Monday, April 22nd from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. Residents will notice a drop in pressure and temporary discoloration of the water. And I do encourage, and it was mentioned before, but I do encourage the residents to attend the Prevention Coalition meeting tomorrow night at the library on marijuana use in the community and talking to kids about it. You know, we talked about this a couple months ago when we ran a couple other programs, including the cybersecurity programs. These are programs that are put together by organizations that are in town that are of no charge, and that are an opportunity to disseminate incredible information to parents and children, and attendance is important, so we encourage you to go out and listen to this information and share it with your families. I do want to share, I had a couple of them up here on the table, but they're all gone. This was sent to us, I think it was 2 weeks ago, on behalf of the Pompton Lakes Education Foundation by Diane Ela. This is their first official report. This is tremendous. There's a lot of information on here, including some of the grants that they've received and the work that they're doing to improve the media center and improve technology for the schools because of the grants that they've been received, as well as some upcoming events and fundraisers they have. So Diane does a lot of work for the schools, and she put this together so that we can keep track of what's going on, so that we can participate in some of the events she's having. I don't have any more because they were all taken, but I encourage you to look at the Pompton Lakes ef.org website. This information is on there, and the next time they print one, I'll bring them again, but please take a look at that. And the last thing I have for today is, it was a very happy day for my son in school. We had our 5th grade marble maze. So they had the whole gym set up where all the children that worked very hard on creating their marble mazes were able to set them up on display, and the parents were encouraged to visit over 2 sessions to look at all the hard work that the kids did. And there were some really extraordinary creative masterpieces that were on display today. So thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Congratulations on his marble maze. I also want to congratulate, by the way, Gladys and Manny for reopening the Cardinal today. It was a packed house, and it was, moving on. I think they were a little nervous about the big move, but I think it all worked out for them, and they are one of those institutions that have been in town for a while, and so I'm glad to see they're back up and running. I also just want to follow up on Council President Riker's comment. We did open the radio station today, went online, back on the air for the first time in over 3 years. It's pretty exciting that that's happening. They're only going to grow and get bigger and stronger. They're actually going to be more of a radio station than the old one was. They're going to have interviews. They're going to have lawyer sessions and real estate sessions and all kinds of different sessions and live music. So give it a chance. Soon it will be an FM station, hopefully, because we won a lottery that will make it an FM station, which will now reach New York City and Patterson and up to Greenwood Lake. So it's a big deal. Councilman Bennett.
Thank you, Mayor. Earlier this year, I brought up the Ring doorbell subsidy, which I thought was a good idea to introduce and get more citizens' doorbells that are surveillance cameras. The majority of the council disagreed with me and decided to table it, and we revisit it later. I, however, voted yes to continue looking at it. So I wanted to make sure that there was a dissenting vote up here on something. It was actually in the paper, so if you Google Pompton Lakes Ring doorbell, it comes up with an article. It doesn't say that I was dissenting, but if you...
There's always one. Go ahead.
Moving on. Councilman DeLine and I were invited to the Boys and Girls Club this afternoon, the Lakeside after-school program, in talking with the municipal government week, is it? They had local government week. We had coffee with the council earlier this week. They had cookies with the council this afternoon with the children, mostly elementary school kids, in the Lakeside School Library. And Councilman DeLine and I spoke about our public service and how we got to where we are, and some of us had no idea we'd be where we are. But anyway, kids were very receptive and very polite. And lastly, daffodils are starting to spring up. Not in one big pile like you had
recommended. I saw a huge daffodil. It must have been a big one. I don't know how high it was.
That was the one
That's the one Councilman DeLine had the pickaxe for.
But they are coming up, though.
Check out along the Morristown Greenway over the next few weeks.
And how many bulbs did we put in?
1,000.
We put in 1,000 daffodil bulbs on a grant. That's a lot of daffodils. Let me just say that. And they are starting to bloom, so it does look nice.
That's my report. Thank you.
Okay, Councilman Bay.
Thank you. I also participated in the Little League Parade this past Saturday and coffee with the council this past Monday. I received the Pompton Lakes Riverdale First Aid Squad report for the month of March 2019 from Chief Sean Filippi. There were 100 calls for service for the month of March, 53 in Pompton Lakes, 21 in Riverdale, 5 duty calls in Wanacue. There were 77 medical emergencies, 6 trauma injury calls, 1 CPR call, 8 motor vehicle accident calls, and 6 fire calls. I received the Pompton Lakes Fire Department report for the month of March 2019 from Fire Prevention Chief Al Bruno. He reported there were 30 alarms in March and a total of 84 alarms for the year to date. I attended the Pompton Lakes Prevention Coalition meeting on March 28th. At the meeting, we reviewed the drug prevention film, which you saw tonight. And this will be part of the contest that the Hawk Club has entered into on the county level. The film will be reviewed by the mayor and council, which we did tonight. Also, on April 10th, it was reviewed by the Pompton Lakes Board of Education meeting, and it will be reviewed again by the Pompton Lakes PTA on April 22nd. The coalition will be showing the following upcoming presentations: how to talk to youth about marijuana use. That's on April 11th at 7 p.m. at the Pompton Lakes High School Library. And underage drinking, May 30th at 6 p.m. at the Pompton Lakes Borough Hall Council Chambers. The coalition with the Pompton Lakes Hawks Club and the Pompton Lakes Police Department will be conducting Operation Sticker Shock on April 13th. This is an annual program in cooperation with our local liquor stores, and where warning stickers are placed on alcohol packages warning not to purchase alcoholic beverages for underage youth. I attended the Pompton Lakes Board of Education meeting on April 2nd. The board approved the contract settlement with the teachers union covering years 2018 to 2021, giving a 2.7% raise for each of the 3 years. Dana Argott gave a report on instructional technology to the board. Each school has an instructional technology coach, and the coaches as a team, are responsible for developing programs to help teachers infuse technology into the academic curriculum. They also work with the building administrators, providing input on ways to increase teachers' use of technology as it positively impacts students' performance in the classroom. Superintendent Paul Amoroso reported that the Future Business Leaders of America Club had a successful state leadership conference. Ricardo Sullivan, Riley Deze were first place winners in partnership with business. Paolo Mayasho, Megan Sanford, and Christopher Triano were first place winners in social media campaign. And Brian Bush, Arlene Crum, and Bayonne Grande placed second in community service. I also attended the Board of Education meeting on April 9th. The board at the meeting honored the following teachers of the year: Matthew Foley from Pompton Lakes High School, Jason Steyer, Lakeside Middle School, Sherry Pauley at Lennox School, and Joanne Rizio at Lincoln School. And as Eric said before, John Yo was picked to fill the vacancy on the board that was open. And that's my report.
Thank you. I just want to throw a shout out to Mr. Shacatano. He's been there a long time at the school. He's going to be missed by a lot of the parents who now have kids in the classrooms that they were part in themselves. You know, he's a dedicated teacher who's been there a long time. He will be missed. The professional reports. Minister's report.
Just have a couple of things, Mayor. The council received my report by email. We've applied for the 2019 Clicker a Ticket program for overtime for police to do the operation. We applied for distracted driver. We denied the application, basically because we have not really been involved with Passaic County Traffic Officers Association. There's one individual who runs this grant for the state of New Jersey, and he has a very specific protocol, because he gets some money from the federal government. And one of the things is you must have an officer continuously go to these monthly meetings. Lieutenant Shoshana started that, so this time next year we should probably get the grant, but because we had not met the protocol yet, and Sue actually said because of that, before we even said that, she felt our ability to get the grant probably denied because of our lack of attendance at that point in time. And that's because we hadn't had traffic bureau again for quite a while, so it's all kind of ties one to the other. We're going to be notifying the county relative to our request for road paving. As you mentioned, a number of the roads, we're putting on a letter to them so they can have that on our list. The Historic Trust capital grants. we reviewed that, and we're not qualified for that because we already received significant dollars from the NJDOT, which funds this grant for our road programs. Like right now, we're doing Grant Ave, we get through almost $250,000, Montauk Ave, $220, and so because we get those funds, we can't apply for these funds. It's just one of those things. So some towns don't get the state DOT money because they don't have connected roads or volumes like we have in some areas. We did receive a safety incentive award from our joint insurance fund for our lack of lost man hours for the year. It was a $500 credit toward our $300,000 premium, but we did get something out of that. And also, I have the council and elected officials are requested to fill out the online program. It's attached to my report, and everybody we receive $50 credit for each member, myself included, who fills out and takes the seminar. And lastly, State County has asked, we're interested in renewing our intention to be part of the CDBG program, and that's a federal program. It helps fund some of our curb projects, road projects. So we'll have a resolution next meeting to offer our intent to continue with that program.
Okay, any questions from the administrator?
I have two quick questions. Could you give us an update on Summit?
We should be, we're up there Monday with the contractor. Once he can seed and plant some seed, he should be out of there. Because the job is almost finished now. We're up there on Monday. We had a job meeting there. He should be done probably by the end of the week, if not, hopefully by tomorrow.
And Monday evening, there were several emergency boats out on the lake. Do we know what was going on?
More than likely, it was fire department. They have drills. It might be the fire department drilling on the lake on Monday night. Monday's drill night.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Any other questions for the administrator? Nope. Okay. Can I have a motion to open the meeting for public comment? Councilwoman Palladori. Second. Councilman Begg. All in favor? Aye. Against? Anyone from the public like to address? Please step up.
Elaine Zablocki, 6 Butler Street. Last week, somebody told me that the borough is no longer using the Record as an official newspaper. Is that fact or rumor?
For some, we're using the Star Ledger. It's a little cheaper. That's
No. We use the Trends, our official newspaper.
Oh, Trends. It was our secondary paper. We went to the Star Ledger. Some groups went to the Star Ledger. I think Planning Board is now with the Star Ledger, I think.
Well, they have to advertise it too.
Right.
So they use the Trends and
Right.
another newspaper.
The Record is getting expensive to advertise it. That's the only reason.
Our official papers.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else from the public like to address? Please step up.
Once again, Ed Meekum, Howard Street, Pompton Lake, New Jersey. I just wanted to go back with a couple of things with the DuPont track that maybe some people aren't aware of, and it's in your borough documents. You have to really research it to find it, but it's there. When we had our flood hazard areas mapped out, it stopped at the Acid Brook, right where it meets the DuPont property, the mapping. During Hurricane Floyd and Tropical Storm Floyd and Hurricane Irene, the DuPont property across the entire parking lot was flooded under 6 inches of water. So that's a flood hazard area in there that you were talking about using the parking lot area.
Using the parking lot.
Before you said we wanted to use the area that's paved.
No, he was asking where the 70 acres was. It was just in that
That's
area.
part of it.
I don't know if it's on that side. I think it's on the other side. Right.
Block 100.
Is it? It might be. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But when you're doing your research, I would be really careful because that area hasn't been mapped out. And I know it's a floodplain. That's why it's called the Acid Brook Valley. Everything runs off of those mountains and into that valley, and then it comes out to the Acid Brook. So I would be really careful when you're planning to put something there if you can't handle the runoff that's going to come out of it.
Well, if it's in a floodplain, it will be on the map, so.
Just want to go back to roads. Howard Street has had a 6-foot-long, 1.5-foot pothole in it for the last year and a half. Then Howard Street also has no curbs whatsoever on the residential sides at all. But on our tax card, it says curb streets. okay? So,
We look into that.
there's a curb going around the middle island, with absolutely no curbs coming up and down the street. And I'm not saying, hey, you have to put curbs in this minute, but there's another section right across the street on Howard Street at 61 Howard Street, and it floods from 61 Howard Street all the way up to the fence by Valbruna, and the water stands there over a half a foot deep every time it rains. There is absolutely no drain there.
Is there a storm, there's no storm drain there?
There's no storm drain. Last time I came here a couple of years ago and made an issue about the drainage on Howard Street, you rebuilt the drain that worked on the left-hand side of the street in front of 64 Howard Street. There is no drain on the right-hand side if you're going north on Howard Street. It's not only, but it's root rotten, at least 4 burrow trees. It root rotted one of the neighbor's trees, cost them $14,000. We had to shut the road down for 2 days because the tree fell over, twisted off its base from root rot, snapped 2 pine trees down into the Howard Street area, and we had nobody to get rid of it for, the whole weekend. And that's an area, if you're doing construction work in town, I would hope that you would please take a look at. Now, when I went to the borough DPW, the guys came up with 2 barrels full of quarry process and put it in the pothole, but quarry process isn't...
How long ago was that?
Just last week or...
Oh, so they're aware of it?
Yeah, they did. I went to them more than
So they
once.
didn't patch it, they just put quarry
They
in
just put quarry process in there, but
Yeah, cool.
it's something that needs about a ton of asphalt, in my opinion.
Whatever.
It's like the cold patch, yeah, once the
Cold patch,
quarry
never
starts getting
sticking that
better.
dirt.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
All right, well, have them look at the pothole.
Yeah, now, the other thing is, the DuPont Bridge.
Which, okay.
Okay, I think everybody knows what bridge I'm talking about.
Well, not everybody, but...
There's a gaping hole. Our engineers have been out there. We put a steel plate over it. The plows knocked the plate away from the hole. The hole is open. When you drive by, you can see down into the brook. I mean, that's something where somebody's really gonna get hurt. And with all the navigation units that are sending the steel trucks down Schuyler Ave and coming through the DuPont area and making a right-hand turn and going up to Valbruna, because that's the way their GPS sends them, they're going across the bridge when our own fire trucks don't drive over that bridge, I believe.
Well, there is a weight limit, I know.
Now, another thing with weight limit sign is after you turn onto DuPont Place. So if you're driving down Cannonball Road and you got a 10-ton truck, you don't see the sign until you make the turn, and you're already on the bridge. What good is it? So, maybe that's something we could correct too. But that bridge needs some serious looking at.
Did we ever identify who owns that bridge? No, right? That's still in
I think
limbo.
we own it if nobody owns it, so...
Well, we're still in that
And
negotiation.
I looked underneath, it's fallen apart desperately bad, and it was constructed with railroad track. So, one might assume that DuPont might have built it back in the day, and we just assumed it, using it, but it's not in good shape.
Can we send our engineer to take a look at the bridge? And, I guess at some point we're gonna address who owns that bridge. This has been going on a long time. Who owns the bridge? I know
I'll
that.
tell you, I ran through the title, and they can't figure it out either. If they can't figure it out,
So who's responsible at that point?
It's Norfolk Bridge. This was an item of discussion the first time I...
This was a long time.
It's Norfolk Bridge.
Well, let's start with the pothole. Someone reach out to the DPW and make sure they take care of the pothole. Let's address the bridge as best we can. Let's see if we can figure out who owns that bridge or what happens if we don't own the bridge. Because it's been a long ongoing discussion, I know that. And we'll see where we go with that. It's been, there's some issues on this bridge. I've been over it. There is a hole there, so we'll have to address that. Anyone else from the public? Please step up. Lisa.
Lisa Riggiola, 283 Ryerson Road, Lincoln Park. Speaking of roads, I go to my mother's a lot. Basically, she has a live-in aid, and we do everything we can for her there. The curves are crumbling on Colfax, and the other day, I thought I was going to bend the rim on my car. That's how bad Colfax Avenue is down from Lake all the way through pretty much to Oakland, but definitely between Lake and White Way.
So what part is the county
It's
responsible?
bad news. That's
No, so what's happening is just so you
That's
understand.
town road.
Well, we're paving, the town is paving a third of it, the county is paving a third of it, it's supposed to happen in the next couple of months, and then we're leaving a third to the end of the year, I just don't know which third is where.
Well, who's responsible for the curbs? Because, I mean,
Depending
growing
on-
up here, our curbs are always perfect, and just, I'm gone, 3 years, and they're getting really, I mean, it looks bad.
Depending on where
I
the
know
curb
it's the
is.
plume, but, if we could make things look a little better, it'd be nice.
It has nothing to do with the plume, but,
Well, yeah, I mean, people feel that way, though.
I
That's what I'm
understand,
saying,
but
man.
the curbing, depending on which part of the county, or it's either county or us, it's one of those.
No, it's down that way, too, and I saw it up on the county
Borough,
way, too.
Probably Borough, so we'll have to. take a
Maybe
look at
somebody
it.
can inspect Colfax Avenue and make some notes.
Road program.
Yes.
If curbing is bad, we repair curbing.
As we're paving, right? Right, so, like I said, a third of it, 2/3 of it will be paved in the next couple months, right? And then the 1/3 will be done next year, so.
All right, well, thank you. I just wanted to let you know that I was like, what the heck? What happened to Colfax is always paved nicely. I just didn't know what happened to it. I have a question about that debris field that's down in the, well and flood protection area that Eddie and I found, rediscovered. Merrill knew it was
Right,
there.
the one
and
in the
then
back there, yeah.
Yeah, and then it
It's a
kind of
DEP
uncovered from the flood, and
Right.
is anything going on with that?
I did actually, about a year ago, talk to the DEP and reminded them that that's their property and they're responsible for that, and they were gonna pass it up the chain and see what they could do, but that's what they've been saying for the
I
last.
mean, it's in a tier 1 well and flood protection.
It's in their own flood protection plan.
Well,
but, you know,
yeah, that's crazy.
And it is a DEP property, they admit it is their property.
It's dangerous, too. I mean, if people are back there, they could fall in these holes and
Let's see what I can
everything else.
follow up with them, I can't promise anything, but.
All right, and I'll just read this quickly because I want to, I don't know if I'll be back when you vote on this ordinance, if you do vote on it, but I want to read this. This is in regard to Ordinance 1913 that was tabled tonight about the rezoning of the DuPont property. Any town government that would consider weakening a cleanup by rezoning a severely contaminated property is not protecting their town's future, its environment, and the safety and health of the families they are elected to protect. A residential zone has a much higher cleanup. And that's why I believe it was zoned that way, to make sure that it did get its proper cleanup. And I believe that happened under Mayor Jack Sinsheimer, if I'm not mistaken. The standard, as EPA admitted it in the newspaper, if you read the record article, EPA basically admits that if you change that zoning to commercial industrial, hybrid industrial, it does affect the cleanup. So the cleanup is based on how the property is zoned. So, just imagine, if the EPA admits that, I imagine you guys kind of know that would happen, right, if you change the zoning. So why do it now? Why not wait until the property is cleaned up and then rezone it? Because that makes more sense. We'll get a better cleanup, everybody will be happy, and we won't have to come here and bother you anymore.
I like bothering, so that's not a problem.
But honestly, I mean,
I
really,
understand what you're saying.
yeah, just leave it alone until they clean it up. Once there's a cleanup plan, which, like you, I want to see it too. It's been 40 years, 50 years? No, 40 years, huh? So, that's what I'm asking, please, just leave it alone until they clean it up.
I understand what you're saying, but remember, this all started from the master plan, this is where it came from, it wasn't any other
Right, but I
agenda.
mean, just leave it alone and tell EPA,
Right.
just clean it up right.
Okay, I
That's
appreciate
what the people want to hear from you guys.
it. Okay. Anyone else from the public like to address? Please step up.
Peter Sazaki, 14 Woodlawn. Just a procedural question. So, since we've tabled ordinance 1913, when it, and if it does get brought back up, will it be brought back under a first reading or a second reading?
Second reading.
Second, so...
Well, no, depending.
First reading.
It'll go back to a first reading status,
It goes back to first reading status?
so that we will have extra time to...
Oh, it's already been read, because I missed the last.
Yeah, no, he was, I'm sorry, our attorney was not here.
It'll be second reading, because it's already had a first reading.
Well, how far in advance will there be notice of the second reading?
When we put our agenda
How far in
together.
advance do we give these?
So notice has to go out.
mean, technically, there's no,
Sunday that it's being carried.
yeah, technically, there's no notice required on a carried ordinance. So it'll be when the agenda comes out.
Could I ask from assurance from the council that it'll be well publicized when the second reading is going to be scheduled?
When you say well publicized, how would we do that?
Maybe go a step beyond the normal, just placing in the trends, maybe put out a public notice announcement. There's a lot of people that are interested in this, and I think...
I can do it on our webpage, is that what you're asking? But we're not going to do a reverse 911 call on an ordinance.
Okay, I'll accept that.
Yeah, we can do that.
Thank you.
Eric, can we make that work when we get closer?
we'll work with, the clerk.
Thank you.
Don't we have to send out, when do we have to send out the certified regular mail?
You said you tabled that ordinance, and she just said she was gonna carry it, so what's...
No,
It's carried.
it's carried for second reading. He was asking about the first reading.
Right, but you said tonight you tabled...
We tabled it, yes. It's tabled, the second reading is tabled right now.
Right.
We're going to have a time frame, when it goes through the other channels it needs to go to, then we'll have a better date of when the second reading will be. We don't know right now, we don't have a date, or I would tell
So
you.
it's carried in perpetuity?
No, it will be within the next 2 months. Anyone else from the public like to address? Please step up.
Randy Hinton, 443 Montclair Avenue. But now if there's any changes to it,
That's different.
then it's a first reading.
That's correct.
Then it would go first,
Any
second.
substantial change requires another first reading.
That is correct.
Correct, okay, thank you. Little change on Frank's report. He was here, our shade tree meeting was on Monday, and since Monday, we're gonna add 5 more trees, so it's 20 trees we're gonna plant. It's up to 150 trees on the CSIP grant, and now we're gonna remove 60 trees instead of 50, so we've been busy.
They gave you too much money?
They gave, we need more.
He had to go to another meeting, so he missed a lot. Also, Al Evangelista had commented at the last meeting about JCP&L, letting him know that, hey, Pompton Lakes had no outages due to trees, sorry that
And
he
I
had
did,
power.
no, and I did tell him.
Yes, you did.
No, I told Jersey Central, same thing.
Yes, and they had mentioned that. And I'm sure that Mr. Boyle could also reiterate that the 1,000 trees we've taken down in the last 6 to 7 years, the costs saved to the borough in emergencies with police and fire, Frank can talk to you, tell you the same thing, and also Councilman Bay, in an emergency situation, the tree goes down, it takes out the power in a storm, there's a lot of costs involved.
Okay.
So, in these years that we've taken that many trees down, we haven't had those instances. Talking to firemen, they were always on call all the time when a big storm or windstorm was coming through. So, we have saved the borough quite a bit in the activity of the shade tree. You forgot to mention, this time of year is egg addling for the geese. And so far, we've been out one good weekend and addled 32 eggs. 32 little goslings
I
running
heard
around.
a goose was attacking somebody.
Excuse me?
I heard a goose was attacking someone.
Yeah, we had a tough female down on the one nest, yes, we did. But also, I met Jim Kern, who's a super for the Board of Ed, and he had said that, taking care of the fields that he does in Pompton Lakes, he says the geese haven't been the problem that they used to be.
That's
So, the process...
I believe in the process, I really do.
Right. And he says he goes to Riverdale because he has to maintain 2 fields over there for the girls softball team. And he says the geese are terrible over in Riverdale.
Look, there's a lot of hard work, and you are one of the members that does it.
Well, you are also.
That goes into doing what has to be done, but over the years we've been doing this, it's a substantial number of eggs that we've had.
Yes, and so, I mean, there's hundreds of geese that weren't born because of it. So
I agree.
It's been really working. Just my question for Councilwoman Paladori, did the mayor throw the ball over the plate, or
We
is
moved
it?
up a little bit. We both did.
I threw a fastball, I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah.
He skipped it, Randy.
Did it make the plate?
He skipped it.
Yeah, he skipped underhand too,
I threw
right?
overhand.
I have a question for you, actually.
Oh, yes.
The ash borer, where are we with that whole thing?
Excuse me?
The ash borer. You remember we had brought that whole...
Emerald ash borer really hasn't hit this area as of yet.
When you say this area, you mean Pompton or this whole area?
Pretty much this whole area. So we're pretty good on that. We're still removing ash trees, but now we've got the time to remove them more slowly, so It's working. Some of those 60 trees we're removing now on this removal list are ash trees.
And the only reason I ask is because I was in Goffel Park in Hawthorne, and they have signs up about it. So I didn't know if maybe Hawthorne got hit with it, and, you know...
It's spotty. It is spotty.
Okay. We have signs up?
Yeah, we have signs that educate people about the Little Ash Park, and some of the trail entrances.
Okay, I haven't seen it, okay.
And I was walking the Morris Canal Greenway Trail. Flowers are coming up. I was talking to Councilman Bennon that the deer haven't touched them. The deer really don't eat daffodils.
Oh, is that right?
And also hyacinths are another flower that the public can plant that the deer won't eat. So trout fishermen, it's trout season now also, and trout fishermen were using the Greenway Trail, so they were comfortable fishing along the river. And just about the trees that were planted, they're still covered along the Greenway.
You mean they have the
new trees
around them?
The new trees, some of them.
From what I remember seeing some that still had that, yeah.
Well, some of them died. And
right, well, those still have to be replaced, yes.
So all those trees are still covered under that plant?
Oh, under the original.
Oh, you mean the insurance?
Because they were planted...
Last year.
Sometime last year, so they're still within that time period. And I know we had sent out an email in sort of trying to wrap things up on the rest of the project, and that included replacing those trees that had died when they were planted.
Okay. All right, just as long as they get taken care of. It's going to be another month before you'll see if they leaf out or not, as to whether they will make it or not. But as long as the company can revisit that and replace the trees that did die, that's all I was really looking for. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? Please step up.
Lily from Seattle, 444 Mellon Avenue. I just wanted to tell Randy that the deer that he chased to my home just had the baby yesterday, and then she came back and picked the baby up and took it, hopefully by you. So we did have,
There's no pets allowed
congratulations.
on the lake, so it's,
I know,
you
but-
can't keep it as a pet, so.
They keep it as a pet. When they're little, they're so cute. But she kept bouncing on all the cars. She couldn't get up and walk, so she kept bouncing. We didn't know what to do. And finally, the mother came and took her.
Really?
Took her over. So congratulations, Randy.
Anyone else from the public like to address? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session?
So moved.
Councilwoman Eldory? Second. Councilman Begg, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Privilege of the floor. I actually have a privilege of the floor. It's a quick one. I just want to say to the public who are, if they're still watching this council here works very hard at everything they do. You know, and for some people to make accusations that the council isn't doing what they're supposed to do, it makes me upset, because I've been involved with a lot of councils. This council works hard. And they're all involved. They all try to get as much information as they can. Am I going to say everything is done right and perfect and correct? It's probably not, including myself. That all happens to all of us. But I will tell you that this council works hard in all avenues, not just in the plume or flooding or anything else. They're out there. So I take offense sometimes when people attack the council a little bit. Anybody else that goes before?
Thank you.
I'll jump in real quick, and it addresses, I think, a little bit of the perception of a lack of dissent within the council. And to Mike's point is that, you know, we have a lot of discussions on various things that come out through ordinances and things like that. I mean, there's a lot of work done before it even gets onto this agenda. And when there's bad ordinances, there's bad thoughts, never mind the ring idea, not to say it's a bad thought, it's just that you know, that's an element of, there's a lot of discussions, and when things don't look like they're good for the borough, it gets stopped in the process. So what you're seeing in a council meeting is the borough, the council doing the business of the borough that we were elected to do. So that doesn't mean that we agree with each other on every single thing that we talk about throughout the month. Between the council meetings, there's quite a bit of disagreement. There's quite a bit of sometimes vehement disagreement on some of these things. And if we can't resolve it, if we can't come to somewhat of a consensus in many ways, it dies on the vine. And, you know, it's one of those things was that because we do these kind of things, we have this discussion, we have, you know, we have that iterative process. When we get to the agenda, and again, it doesn't always work that way, but when we get to the agenda, the idea is that a lot of the issues that we've had with certain things, we've worked out in a fair and conversational manner, that, you know, when it does get to that, the idea is that everybody's had their concerns addressed, or if they haven't had the concerns addressed, we move it to another time. So, you know, and I get it, like, you know, people want to see fighting sometimes, or want to see disagreements just to say that we're holding each other accountable. I think, you know, having worked in a number of municipalities, this council works very well, our boards work very well. We could look like some of these other townships that don't even have, you know, properly noticed meetings and things like that. They're disasters. So, you know, perception aside, I think a lot of the work that we do is the right work, even if it's not necessarily perceived by the public as having disagreements or just, you know, rubber stamping an ordinance or a resolution or something like that.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, motion adjourned. So moved. Second. Councilman Bennett, Councilman Giacomo. Thank you.
No, you were there back. That's not what I was saying. I didn't say we were
I don't get